dragon, waiting for a second to push you to your limits, going strong and feeling better. But do you feel them? Can you hear them say? Come in, cross the line. Since a little dark in here, trust me, you have nothing to come in, take the start. Follow, leave it all behind. Welcome to the other side. Welcome to the other side.
Look how far they took it, you should know we going farther. Be a legend today, it's all over, we just started. If you the Nürburgring Nordschleife, the Green Hell, one of the toughest racetracks in all of racing. And it plays host here today to the upcoming round of the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup by iRacing. But of course, first, we got ourselves the Porsche All-Stars race. My name is Will Vincent. That guy somewhere over there, that's Matthew Dravette. You might know him also at Sadikist. Matt, we went last week from a track that you didn't like, that I really loved, to a track that you love, and I'm still trying to learn all the corner names.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I know the main ones. I know some of them in English, and probably will butcher the pronunciation of others, but we'll try and get through this, and so will the drivers, because let's be honest, this is a test. This is the longest. It's kind of a caveat, because there's the new Las Vegas track, obviously, that claims to be longer, despite really not being used in that configuration often. And then there's the Isle of Man, which is a road course, and technically this is a public toll road in Germany, and that's how they get away with the tourist days. It means you can't pass on the right, all kinds of rules apply, speed limits can be applied. You're responsible for paying for accidents, but it is technically the longest permanent road course in the world. So gray area there, but I think most people would give it to it. It's been around, I think construction started in 1927, and it's probably the most challenging place to drive on the planet. So pretty cool that we're here.
I've heard 1,000,001 stories about people who have a moment on track dragging their car to the nearest village, then called the ADAC, all those sorts of things. Here today, however, in terms of the All-Stars race, we've got things a little bit different. Normally, these guys will be just about to start their qualifying. Today, however, they have had 2 hours in order to set themselves a qualifying time. And that's basically because outlap, fast lap, in lap, that's going to be about 25 minutes.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're looking at around 8-minute lap times for these guys, because obviously we're doing the 24-hour configuration of the track, which includes all the way down to the hairpin of and then through the Schumacher S's of the GP circuit, so it's a little bit longer. So don't look at your bridge to gantry times and think, oh, these RSRs aren't very fast, or these guys aren't very fast. 8 minutes is pretty rapid around here still. And yeah, it's a really cool track, and it's kind of weird because it's very easy to have things go wrong, and the curbs are punishing, but there's not a lot of places to actually get a 1X on the main, on the Nordschleife. On the GP track, there's still a few spots that, being more modern, you can take some liberties, so to speak, but very, very cool circuit. And you're right about stories of people. I've been to 5 or 6 Touristenfahrtens, the tourist days, and I've seen many cars have a bad day. I missed the wall at the Adenau Bridge by about 6 inches on my first ever lap, so I was nearly there. Yeah, so I've seen people lose a lot of money really quickly, but it's pretty awesome. We'll actually take a look at the track now and get a better look at what is the Green Hell, according to Jackie Stewart, famously put. But yeah, what a place. I mean, even just driving there for the first time, I came into B Road. Bunction was the first thing I saw, and I remember looking to my right in my rental car and looking at it and going, whoa, that's way steeper than Sim. And the elevation's insane.
The roads around the racetrack is a nice little preparation for when you get to the racetrack. I've done exactly the same, the little B roads behind. I've actually stayed at the hotel down on the front straight away. I stayed in the village just by. We've been to Piston Klaus, possibly the best restaurant in the entire area. If you've never been there, you've not really actually been to the Nordschleife itself. But look at how big this track is. 15.8 miles in length. That's a tad over 25 kilometers, 150 plus turns. We're not going to name the number of corners because, let's be honest, like any other racetrack, everyone has a different number. And of course, 1970 is when this configuration started, etc., etc. A couple of things about this racetrack worth noting. Don't forget, it's actually a Porsche that has the fastest lap time around here. That was the farewell tour for the Porsche 919, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely it was. Yeah, very impressive lap. If you haven't watched that, you need to, because it is super, super cool. There's the elevation in better picture. I always thought the perfect dream for me would to be live right beside this track and then put some mountain biking trails on some of those hills, and I would have the whole world in one place. It really is a special, special, special spot. I mean, just being there, the atmosphere around the track, even if you don't go out and do a lap, the cars you'll see in the parking lots, the atmosphere, it's pure. It's like going to whenever people ask me, I say it's like going to a ski village or a ski resort, except it's all racing and all car culture. So it's very, very cool. And the elevation's remarkable. It, like I said, was built in 1927, I believe construction started, and it was done to boost employment in that area. And it was something like 25,000 different people worked on it over 2 years before it opened. And it's really cool because it is almost like you could use it to go from town to town. Like it actually goes through. And when you're driving around the perimeter, you'll just go under a bridge and you'll be like, wait a minute, that was the track. It's just so massive. So yeah, we'll look at the format for it. Like you say, qualifying was open session, 2 hours, a little bit different. And obviously because it's a long track, the race is shorter in its lap duration, but not overall time.
Yeah, you're right. It's going to be 3 laps for the sprint race, 3 laps for the feature race. As ever, the feature race, we're going to invert the top 8 drivers. We'll talk about some drivers that can't participate here today due to various real world and other commitments. We've got ourselves Andre Porsche who's going to be joining us here today. Andre Lotterer even. Andre Lotterer will be joining us here for this race as we now have a look at the point standings. Let's see how things are right now. Emily Jones is still leading by 57 points over Diane Suzuki. We got ourselves Jaroslav Honzik in 3rd place. 4th place, Xavier Sanchez and Pierre Oliver Valette rounds out your top 5. Very close though, P5, 6 and 7. Worth noting as ever, Matt, it's actually where you finish in the feature race that will determine the prize money that goes to each of these influencers' communities. Yeah, absolutely. Also worth noting that yellow line is the cutoff for who statistically cannot or can, depending if you're above it or below it, win the championship still. So down to Quick Gabby, they all mathematically still have a chance to win this. Remember, this is the 3rd last round. We've got 2 more races after this, so still lots of racing to go, which is awesome because I've been I don't know, maybe you're more adverse to this and have had more time around this series, Will, but I've been very surprised by the racing quality of the All-Star Series. I mean, I know these guys are great in their own right, but wheel to wheel, sometimes I'm just not sure what to expect. It's been very good. Yeah, indeed. So we'll talk more about that in a moment as we have a look at our starting grid. 2nd race in a row, Dave Cameron, who started late in this series, pole position for him. Alongside him, front row of the grid will be Mattia Vacca. Then row number 2, you got Borges also, who is once again dressed up in his shirt and bow tie. He's in 3rd place. Jaroslav Honzik in 4th. Jimmy Broadbent in 5th. And Dan Suzuki in P number 6. P number 7 will be Matt Malone. A poor qualifying by her standards by Emily Jones. Pierre Oliver Valette in 9th place. And then new to the series, Steve Brown, you might know him as Super GT in 10th place. Will Forward boosted media in 11th. James West, Game of Muscle in 12th. Then 13th, you got Tony Kanan, TK, and Amir Thatcher Cyanide. Then Maxime MSM and Andre Lotterer rounds out your 16-car field. As I mentioned, a couple of drivers not participating here today. That is mainly because of the fact that, life and stuff happens. So Gabby is doing some real-world testing right now. Heike 360 is participating in the iRacing 12 Hours of Sebring. Unfortunately for Hydro, technical issues. He can't race here today, Matt.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because I was loving the livery that they had on his car this week. That silver and black kind of chrome. I'd say more metallic than chrome, but yeah, very, very cool. So yeah, obviously some other applications. iRacing's a busy platform. You should get on there and do it yourself because there's so much racing going on. Like you say, that 12 Hours of Sebring, that's not exclusive like this league is. That is anyone can sign up and do that. And they've got splits, which essentially determine your skill rating and your safety rating and your license points and put you into a series or a race that's going to be competitive to you. And it's tons of fun. I did the 24-hour last year of Nürburgring at this track, and man, oh man, it was great. We didn't finish, of course, because I won't go into the details, but it was a ton of fun.
Yeah, of course, the 24 hours from the Nürburgring and iRacing special event is coming your way soon. I know Paul a little bit upset because he wants to run in that race, but he's also got commentary duties out at the same time.
Just put his splits. Let his co-drivers drive while he's on air. He can jump off and get in the car.
It will be fine. Very quickly before we go to green, of course, we want to give a shout out and regards to Sabine Schmidt, who very sadly lost her battle to cancer just a couple of weeks ago. And Matt, just before we go green here, the Queen of the Nordschleife. It would be an unfitting tribute if we didn't mention the fact, of course, she's done so much great racing around the place.
Yeah, what a legend. I drove by her once just going out on track, and just seeing her for like that split second was as much a highlight of being there because she's such a part of this place.
And then she'll probably pass you about 200 yards later.
Oh, probably, yeah, no question.
Yeah. As we've got the cars then just working themselves through the bottom part of the racetrack. As we mentioned, no times today in terms of race duration. It's all about laps. 3 laps for both our sprint and our feature race. We are ready to go green flag racing. And they'll hold it back for just a moment's time. And Barney's going to wave the green flag. We are away at the Nürburgring, and already look at how punched they're going to be coming into the arena for the first time. They're looking to go 3 wide, maybe even 4 wide down into wide.
4 wide indeed, tight switchback, but it's the 24-hour version. Rise going around, we've got more contact than that because everyone trips up over it. And that is a pretty bent-looking Porsche, long lap. But yes, 24-hour version, so you switch back quickly in the arena, which means you can actually attack turn 1 a little more aggressively. So off the start, you can see people going deep and wide, but it makes that left-hander pretty tight.
It looks like it was a bit of a Jimmy B being punterinoed there down at turn number 1. We've got battles going on though right now on track, and there's still, don't forget, on the GP layout portion of this racetrack, that's number 56 car, Borja Zazo and Dan Suzuki going side by side as they head themselves down the southernmost part of the racetrack, side by side again into the Schumacherette.
That was a wiggle and a half off the edge of the curve coming out of the hairpin. Definitely well held to keep that rolling in a straight line. Zazo and Emery, bit of a battle going on. Dave Cam making a break for it. Yargi doesn't want to let him get too far away though, as it's the blue car in the front. Dave Cam joined us, just last weekend for the first race, and now he's already making himself very prominent in this series. He had a great result last week on the podium, and good qualifying here at the Nürburgring. So it's interesting as well, because it's such a long track, and this is something we're going to see as well in PESC, there's sections of it that people will be better at than others. So it's difficult to overtake on the North Loop, but it's really cool to watch the difference in speed and the difference in approach. For certain cars, was that one spearing off in the background? It was. I think that was Will Ward that went off. Meanwhile, more drama than that up front.
TK turned upside down in the number 14 car, and that was just as they started entering the old style part of this racetrack. We're looking at the number 9 car, Super GT, Steve Brown, and now on to the Nordschleife part of the race. But yeah, Tony Kanaan already involved in incidents early in this race. We've seen that Cyanide, number 13 car, involved in incidents early in this race. Jimmy Broadbent in the 00 car had a little bit of argy-bargy at the very start of the race down at corner number 1. But you talk about this being a track of multiple different sections. This is the part of Nordschleife that I find the most difficult because of those high curbs, Matt. And the majority of the Nordschleife does have high curbs. You feel it the most, I feel, in Sector 1.
Yeah, there's certain ones you don't want to clip. I mean, the inside at Fulknack where they just went through can really unsettle you, and it's a high-speed corner. Definitely going into Schwedenkreuz, and here that we're coming down the hill from Arnberg, you don't want to touch mostly the Schwedenkreuz one. I mean, I call it Schwedenkreuz because if you miss it, you're going to end up in Sweden. You're going so fast there. But, and then Foxhole down here. Inside curb, you can use a lot of it, but then when you get into the Adnal Fosk bend, you don't want to touch any of them. They're massive, and it'll really unsettle the exit. You won't necessarily lose the car on the exit of where they're going here. They'll go left, back to the right, and then if you clip too much of this inside right curb, you can definitely cost yourself a lot of time on the exit. So it's not necessarily it's a killer spot, but it's a time costly spot for sure.
2 very different driving styles there. It looks like Dave Cam is completely focused, wearing himself, I'm very hoping is, an official Porsche polo shirt. And then on the right hand side of your screen, you've got Honzik there in the number 12 car, who is very laid back, chatting to his community. Big up to the Shaw SM7B crowd as well. Although I say that, Charlie could do a bit of tidying up behind him.
He could, but you're right, he always looks so I don't know if it's the cam wrangle. I haven't discerned if it's cam wrangle, if it's actually him just like lounging, hanging out sideways. We've got a few different cameras. Look at Dan Suzuki. He's got his... Is that actually on like a timing slide? It is. It's a motorized slide with a camera behind him. So he's putting some sweet content together. If that's his streaming camera, that's even cooler that he's done that. And then Borizazo, the man with class, all sass, rocking out the sweet bow tie. Best dressed.
It's a green bow tie today.
It matches the car, right? I mean, it's brilliant. I don't even know how to like match my socks in the morning, and this guy matches his race car with his bow tie.
Yeah, it's rather nice to see actually all of them. The gap between P1, P2 is closed down to 0.2 of a second. So actually, no, Jardy has overtaken Dave Cameron. So now you've got Honzik up in P1, Dave Cam down into 2nd place. Whilst we're spilling beautifulness over these cars, we've had a change for the race lead. Emily Jones, who started P7 by the way, is up into third place and battling right now with your race leaders. But we're at that part of the racetrack where it is so fast, but also it is pretty much single file from here. And you could argue all the way down to the carousel.
It's super uphill here on the straightaway, by the way. It doesn't translate, but that is a massive uphill section. And I have a feeling that pass started around Nürburgring, which is actually the corner that leads on to that whole Kästchen straight, which means, and we're going to see a replay of it to see if that was the case or not, but that means that they would have been compromised and would have had a great run, because Nürburgring is one of the most important corners on the circuit due to that uphill straightaway after, a bit of an early exit out of the carousel from Yadier, as long as you keep it low, keep it consistent. Now, I will say this, if you go to the track, carousel is a ton of fun, but don't try and use the small asphalt at the bottom of it. You want to keep your tires firmly as wide as possible, full contact patch on the cement. As soon as you get too low, you actually end up using half the tire because you're not even with the surface, and that's what spits you out at the top. So very easy to do in sim as well. They got to be careful with that.
As we are due to get ourselves a replay of this change to the race lead, we'll get that in a moment's time. Just to let you know, Andre Lotterer, who is our pro driver for the day, he is struggling in the 916 car all the way down in P number 16. So I know Andre didn't have a practice time for this race. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say he's got thrown into the deep end, right? I mean, any other track he'd be in sim, he's probably fine. Going here to the green hell, he's really got to get up to speed quickly. So here's a look back at the lead change. Okay, so it's actually through miss-hit-miss, which is the apex term for the corner, and in toward, this is the slowest corner on the track. I'm trying to remember the name of it off the top of my head, Will. I think it's Worsifin, I think it is. Yeah, so it was done on the exit there.
Back end just stepped out there for Dave Cam. Lost himself about half a second. That was all Jardier needed to get himself to the race lead. By the way, he has built up now a half a second gap, but don't forget, we are going to end up at some point down the Dotting of Heuer. Now, these drivers have been told that there's not allowed to be weaving left to right at the last 5 laps in Indy 500. These guys, basically, you mentioned it earlier, it's like driving down the Autobahn rules. You basically stay in your lane and let you go to try and move out too far.
Yeah, it is very much like the Autobahn, especially, again, if you're there on a tourist day, please go. It's the most incredible thing you can do as a fan of cars, but obey those rules. They're very strict about them, and I actually passed them on the inside and got a strict no-no afterwards. They let me get away with it, given it's a weird situation, but yeah, even then I got yelled at. So don't do that. Don't be like me. But yeah, no weaving, draft is on, Dotting of Heuer, very, very long straightaway. There's your tourist pit entry if you are there on a tourist day. But we're going straight by that and all the way down. Now, this is tricky because there's a lot of bumps heading in toward Tiergarten and then back onto the GP circuit. So braking is so crucial right now. As soon as they head to the right, Dave Cam goes deep. We use all the roads. Okay, we're actually a little earlier looking back. I've lost my placement. There it is. So you want to go right out over that entry road and snap it in toward the curb, and you're good to go.
And Dave Cam did back the race lead there down the Dotting of Heuer. Wonderful hotel on the right-hand side of your screen now. Or it was at least for a brief half a second there. Lovely hotel. If you do get the chance to go to the Nürburgring whilst there is racing action going on, do try and get yourself a room there. Also, make sure you get one that overlooks the racetrack.
We just dove.
CCTV.
Someone just dove for pits. They must be looking to get repairs. Who was that just jumped in the back end? I think it might have been.
Two cars on pit road.
Yeah. Who did I see head in? I think one was TK and there's the other there. All right. Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's Jimmy Broadbent. I can just about tell. Tony Kanan's on pit road. Dan Suzuki's on pit road, so it's a busy road right now.
Yeah, no, I think actually Jimmy stayed out. He's in the red car. Yeah, we're back to him now. So it is Dan Suzuki. He changed that livery to that. I love that super sort of sci-fi. Yeah. What's the word I'm looking for? Chill wave kind of look to it. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, Matt Malone versus Jimmy Broadbent right now. We got between them about half a second on track. Matt Malone in the number 83 car, of course, one of the drivers that can start a little bit later on in the series. Jimmy Broadbent in the 00 car. A battle of the kind of reddish-looking cars as they go through the Schumacher S, the Grand Prix part of the racetrack. And that was a really good way of articulating my point. We see it again here. On the GP track, you can really abuse those curves because they are much lower, especially through the Schumacher S, then through the right-hander. As soon as you get into the Nordschleife, it is literally like going from one racetrack to another.
Yeah, and there's certain curves that you can use, and even in like a street car, some of the stiffer race cars, you can get away with using them, but you're right, there's some that will absolutely spit you out, and it's I mean, look at the Armco. It's right there. I mean, it is the most punishing track in the world for a reason. So you kind of have to know the circuit in that way. And the other thing as well is this scan, they repave each year because the track's so long and there's so much traffic on it. And on tourist days, different weights of machinery and whatnot. It's very well surfaced underneath. But they resurface in sections, so each year a section is redone. And one of the things that was redone in the last year was actually Streetenkroy, where there's a camber change, which would still be in the sim, and it's a lethal spot. Thankfully, in real life now, it's actually really smooth, as is the miss-hit-miss section, which used to have a massive camber change. But just like a really cool fact that they do every year, they have to plan for that. But yeah, to the point about curbs, you can use a little bit of the exit here at Hatzenbach. Right now, where they are down the hill, not any faster to use the curb, but interesting point, in the rain, they'll use it because it'll hook you in so much. So track knowledge here is you can do 1,000 laps and still not know everything about this track. It changes. It's so much.
Four drivers had major issues early on. Andre Lotterer, the 916 car, is now down a lap. You've got yourself Steve Brown, Super GT, down a lap. Of course, Super GT's first race in this series. Tony Kanaan, who we saw join the series last time out down at P15. That's a shame after the performance he had at Spa a couple of weeks ago. And Sinai down in P16. We're looking right now at P7, P8 on track. This is Matt Malone, left-hand side of your screen, and Jimmy Broadbent on the right-hand side of your screen.
Oh, Jimmy looks busy.
Yeah, all over the wheel there is Jimmy Broadbent in that double-O car.
I love that he's changed his view so that we can make sure he's not driving a track around the ring like he might be on YouTube right now. He is indeed in that Porsche. It's not a figment of your imagination or some sort of CGI trickery, just to prove the point. But look at him, the whole body's into it. I love it. He's like super, I think he got away with one there because he caught the slide, and I think that's like go-kart reset, like give yourself a little hop in the seat. All right, you got this. Matt Malone, meanwhile, always, what a crowd pleaser, right? It's like, hey, Porsche, I'll play the part. He's got all the Porsche gear beside him. He's like rocking it out. It's like, sorry I missed half the season, but please don't leave me out again. I'm here now.
Bit of a cultural reference. You remember Joey from Friends, that one episode? That's basically Matt Malone right now, with about as much Porsche merch as you can possibly have in one go. And yes, I have just referenced Friends.
Yeah, that's fine. We're all friends here.
Okay. Tag Heuer, of course, our time scoring partner here today. And we are about halfway through this first race. If you're joining us and you're new to the series, normally this is going to be a 20-minute race followed by a feature race afterwards. Because of how long this track is, we're doing it by laps here today. We're looking on board with Emily Jones, currently third place. Started P7, up 4 places at the very start of the race, but gone nowhere since.
Yeah, she got a little close there in the entry to Bergvik, which means she lost a bit of the run, and this is exactly the corner I'm talking about. This camera angle actually shows us, because we can see the kind of hills around it. You're kind of in a ravine. There actually is a stream that runs along the side of the track on the left-hand side. Starts on the right, comes down, there's a bridge there, whatever. Doesn't not important, but the point is it's all uphill, and luckily she still has the draft to tow her back into this, but it's such a difficult position, because here you've got to lift to get around this left-hander just a bit. Don't touch the curb on the inside. You can use the outside curb, but you got to be dead accurate. It's only about a half a tire width wide, or so it seems. This corner, if you're brave, flat, but I wouldn't recommend it. And then, of course, now you're in the run to the carousel, and it's super hard to make. Oh, she might get a run. This is pretty wide. It's a corner that's long and sweeping, so as long as your exit's fine, you'll still get the speed, but it's hard to make a move into carousel, so she needed to be a little closer out of Bergvik. And that, I believe, car 22 is Maxime. Oh, she got it done into the carousel. Hang on, a lot going on. She actually managed to push him onto the outside. He did very well, Yardier, to actually hold the top side of the carousel. And we've got more drama. What is going on?
That's Matthew Vaca there.
He's stuck on the curb.
9 car, and that's another 83 car, and Matt Malone. And talk about the high curves, it can beat you there. And, well, we've had
Maddie,
about half
bump.
our field involved in incidents here.
Yeah, and I don't think that was at Klestrol, which is the corner, the right-hander that leads up to the carousel. Track actually used to go straight there, but it's so steep and dangerous that they put in the carousel to compensate for that sometime, I think, in the 50s. But that was in a whole different spot than the first incident we saw for Maxime. So I thought maybe it was a joining issue, but it's not. That's separate on its own.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting as well.
This is a fun section. I love the third section. They call this YouTube corner because when you drive through there's literally a parking lot right beside the B road, and it's always filled with tourists that are just watching, even just for the tourist lapping days. And if you mess up there's guaranteed someone with a camera, and it's going on YouTube. So yeah.
And will completely destroy any insurance claim that you make as well. Driving it to the nearest village, so on and so forth there. So Emily Jones up into second place. Yardier down in third place. They've come 2.1 second advantage at the front of your field, that does mean that Dave Cam will be kind of clear of the toe here, because now actually going to be Emily Jones more under pressure from Hunting as they work themselves down the bottom of the highway in about 45 seconds time. Here's a replay then. Let's get ourselves a Vodafone replay as we look at the number 9 car now on track, and this is Matthew Vaca. This is what happened to him earlier on. So it started off as a solo car incident, which then ended up collecting Matt Malone. Yet that went hard into the wall, and then there's Matt Malone trying to avoid him, and the opposite lot to what Jones normally has.
They kiss. They give each other a little kiss. That's almost like a Jacques Villeneuve in supercars at Surfers Paradise. Like, hey, I'm just going to rejoin as quickly as possible, disregard everyone coming. I get it. He almost had space, almost made it work. It's a bit unfortunate to the others in that incident, but yeah, so that was a separate incident from the Maxime one altogether. Meanwhile, back at the front, the draft didn't quite work out, so couldn't make it stick down the straight, but we still do have the GP right away. That's the interesting thing about doing this format, because we get a second crack at the draft. So we'll see if Emily's going to hold on to this from the RDA, who's trying desperately to get back into that second position. This is giving Dave Cam a lovely gap. We've got 1 lap to go, which is miles and miles and miles at this place.
Yeah. I know that you might be traveling soon, but you might have also just lost yourself your Canadian passport by saying something bad like Jack Miller.
That's fine. I'm allowed to criticize. He criticizes Lance Stroll all the time.
Well, true, yeah, and also Paul Tracy criticizes everyone and anyone. Let's be honest. So
yeah, we're not as friendly as we're made out to be.
Yeah. 1 lap to go though. You're right though. It is 1 lap to go, but it is about another 7.5, 8 minutes worth of racing. Don't forget there is going to be a second race immediately after this one, and after that we'll head ourselves immediately as we count ourselves down to green. What a Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup by iRacing, and we've got 2 great races going on there as well. Joshua Rogers is still looking to claim his second title. It was a very close method of getting out of it there. He was almost going to have a qualifying ban with Sebastian Joe, but he is able to qualify here. We'll talk more about that as we count ourselves down to green. But we talked about that gap and the fact that it was 2.1 seconds down the Docking Holly for Dave Cam, up to 2.5 right now. Dave Cam, let's not forget, pole position and won race number 1 last time as well at Spa.
Yeah, he absolutely did. Great return to the series for him. Very impressive overall. And yeah, I mean, obviously this guy, well, we know he does. I mean, his YouTube channel, he's got a lot of reviews on there about different things. I mean, if I'm getting into sim racing or setting things up, his YouTube channel is probably a great place to start. And that means he likely does a lot of laps around the place, like the noise lights. And it really is a love hate. Like you say, you're not a huge fan of it on sim. You've got to put so much time in to learn the trick. Once you do, it's just those who really are willing to commit to it.
Yeah, always one of the hardest tracks to learn, I always say, in terms of motor racing. There are some just harder as we look on board with the 786 car of Dave Cameron, currently leading the race, say now, by about 2.2 seconds over Emily Jones, working himself. Look at that facial expression by Dave Cameron. Of course, he's had one little moment already. Looks as though he just survived another one there, Matt.
Yeah, possibly. I didn't quite see how much curve he got there, but into Flood Flats, he's still got quite a lead, so he's doing okay. 2.1 seconds isn't a massive amount around the track like this if you condense that down to sort of a lap differential, but it's significant enough that he can hold it. So he's got tons of speed, tons of pace. Emery is closing ever so slightly. There's Sweden Toys, that's the one I was talking about famously. Corner where a lot of people have incidents, and it's interesting because you can really attack it, but you have to get the car pointed, not necessarily on the apex, but smooth enough to get off Armberg downhill, because this is very steep. This run down the hill, the 3 apexes, compression, which then you got to tap the brakes and snap it at the left at Foxhole. It's a pretty technical section of the track.
Also, one thing that, as an audiophile, Emily Jones's microphone placement a little bit different to all the other drivers.
She's got a whole new camera angle. I wonder if she was like mad that we called her out last time because she was kind of in a basement, we thought. She's like, no, I'm resetting the scenes here.
She's still got a couple of pop figures just behind her. So she's still repping the gaming and all that culture, wearing the Sparko gloves as well. As now, Emily Jones down to just under 2 seconds, so she is trying to have a charge. I will say as well, this is the most serious I've seen Emily Jones all season.
Yeah, she's on it. She's on the charge.
Yeah.
Man, look at Yardia. He's like not sure if he's moving in or out. Hasn't unpacked the box. Maybe that's his like version of a Plymouth. He was like, I don't want to buy an art gallery version. I'll just grab a sweet box as he's pretty confident on the wheel. They're dialing it in. It looks like a Fanatec wheel, if I were to say. It looks like the Formula version, but as you say, also rocking out the Sweet Mike gang. And okay, he's pretty impressed with what's going on there. A little sigh of relief, but he's losing track of the RDA, or excuse me, of Emery just in front at this point. He's having a good time. That outside curve, that's where I almost hit the wall. The Adenauer Bridge, I believe the corner name for it is Alsfat, but that's desperate. And the camera change there. Yeah, you could lose the rear end of the car. This is, by the way, we're heading into Lauda links. This is where Nicky Lauda's at. Right here on this left-hander, just for reference. But yeah, that corner just prior is brutal, especially in the, again, we don't have rain in iRacing, but rain around places with all the painted lines that everyone puts on. It's treacherous, and some of those camera changes will catch you out even in the tries. So just imagine those ones win.
Remember a couple of years ago when that snowed in the Twin Cars in Nürburgring?
Yeah, a little bit, yep.
Yeah. I'm looking right now at Porsche's outside. By the way, if you did manage to mouth read what Heuer was saying, we do apologise. He had a bit of an off there, running into the grass. And the thing is, you do go into the grass, you've got to try and find a way of getting off the grass in one piece. He was able to do so, but lost himself for about a second to Emily Jones. Looking at Borges right now in his crisp iron shirt and that green bow tie today, but still wearing the racing gloves. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm wondering to alternate this in the last couple of rounds of the season between being properly formally dressed and that crazy outfit he had a couple of weeks ago as far.
Yeah, I love it. I love a little bit of personality for it, right? Good entertainment for everyone. But you're absolutely right. It's tricky to get back on as we jump on board with DePilio at this point. He's chilling out, having a good old time. Not really much going on. A little bit down the road in front of him. We can see who's he chasing right now. Looks like that is Borzazo, so we're just jumping backwards a bit. Pretty comfortable gap between them for Bora at this point. But it's an interesting track because you're right. You want to try and find ways to get back on, but you don't want to overdrive it here. And it's as crazy as it seems, no matter what car you're in, the Nürburgring, especially the Nordschleife, is a momentum track. So you want to carry as much speed. You want to know where you can attack and really push curves, but at the same time, you don't want to overdrive because the track's very flowing. You start to unsettle the car, it just cascades, and you end up way offline. This is one of my absolute favorite sections. Smash the second curve down the hill, and this is my favorite corner of the whole track, Whipperman, because it's blind. You come up over the hill, and you basically pick a, oh, that's a bit too wide. You want to pick a spot on the fence, and you aim for it, and you just, it's the sweetest sound when you just clip that outside curve with your tires. You don't even really see it, and you're like, oh, nailed it. It's just an awesome curve.
I am going to get the irk of every Jimmy Broadbent fan here for not watching enough of his videos. But I didn't realise that Jimmy B only actually ran with one monitor until I saw that on board. Having a look, by the way, battle going on between Game Master number 6 car, Matt Malone, in the number 83 car, battle for the number 7 on track right now. We're just under, I'd say under half a lap, with about a third of a lap left to go.
It's a good point with Jimmy. I think that might have to do with the space in the shed. I don't know if he's actually said that in any of his videos, but yeah, throwing the ultra wide curve, it's pretty modern. He's done CR stuff too. I don't think he runs it very often. Good little battle though. This is going to be a tight one all the way through. Gamer Muscle versus now Matt Malone as they try and track down. Matt's looking pretty focused but more relaxed, whereas Gamer Muscle honestly looks like he might have to go to the bathroom right now, if you know what I mean. He's a little stressed as he's working the wheel and very hunched into it.
Down the Dossinger Heuer the final time in your sprint race.
Has Emery had it off? I don't remember her wing being bent like that before.
She has had it off, and she's just been passed by Yardier. Yardier up into second place. Emily Jones down into third with less than a mile's worth of racing to go. Dave Cam won himself the first race at Spa 2 weeks ago. He's going to be exactly the same here today in our, I'm going to call it a sprint race for just all intents and purposes. But Dave Cam, he's got the number 1 finger up. He's got the little punch in the air. Dave Cam, 786 car, your winner here in the first 2 races in the Porsche All-Stars Challenge. And then you've got yourself Jardier second, Emily Jones third. Going to be a battle going on here. Dan Suzuki right on the rear of Gamer Muscle as they head themselves down the Dossinger Heuer final time to the right-hand side. Look how close they are. That's some NASCAR side drafting going on. 3 wide.
Is he actually going to get both? Wow, okay, so he actually got a chance to go by based on the draft. I didn't think there was going to be a bit of a chance on the second, on the positioning into Tiergarten, but that's a well-done move right there from Dan Suzuki. And that's from pit lane. Remember, he's pitted on the beginning of the opening lap because of damage, so good recovery for him to get by both Gamer Muscle and Matt Malone, and they're not done either as they resume battle. I thought Matt was going to hold them off, but not going to happen. He will keep Gamer Muscle behind just barely. They dodge and dart for position, but well done for Dan Suzuki to catch them both on the final lap. It'll be interesting to see how he does.
Nice little battles then going on towards the end of our race. Those of you just joining us, don't forget Victory. We are here in about 6 minutes time from now. It'll be a little bit longer than normal just because of the fact that we've got to wait for all these drivers on a lap to finish their lap. Looking at the number 4 car, Boosted Media, Will Ford right now, as he's got himself about a minute's worth of racing to go. Underneath the bridge, with a sponsor that is the same, parent company of Porsche. But down the dotting of Heuer then will come Boosted Media, Will Ford, the Australian driver, and it's just on the right-hand side there. Normally, Matt, you'd be filling in.
Yeah, absolutely. Pop in, head to the Devil's Diner, grab yourself a burger and fries. If you're done your tourist day, maybe a nice alcoholic beverage to cool off and talk about the memories you're making for life at this place. But don't do that, obviously. You're still going back out on the track. That would not be wise, and it's definitely illegal. So yeah, but it's a cool spot. Very cool. And that parking lot is like, you can just walk around. It's cool. The amount of cars that are in that place, it's insane. Honestly, go. If you have a chance to go to the Nürburgring, go. Just the walk around. The experience is incredible.
Always serious question here. Have you ever been tempted to add your little name to the racetrack like so many others have done so?
So what do you mean? Say again.
Little graffiti on the race.
Have I been tempted?
Yeah.
I would love to. I'd love to go out and just I don't know, write Sadakist or whatever, Matt, or just anything really.
Matt was here.
Yeah, something like that. But you got to kind of sneak out there at night, I think, to do it, which it's actually easier to do than you think because it's a massive circuit. They can't possibly police the whole thing.
Dave Cam, by the way, winner here, 4.8 seconds over Jaroslav Honzik in the number 12 car. Emily Jones started P7, finishes P3, got herself up early, but got damaged on the last lap. Borges Arzo, number 56 car, coming home in P number 4. A quiet day for Pierre-Olivier Valette in the number 64 car, but comes home in P number 5. Rest of the results up on your screen right now. I do also have to say that it will be tagging, not graffiti. I say it out. One of my good friends is doing her PhD in graffiti, and she would murder me if I got the two confused.
Yes, graffiti is the art. Tagging is the naming and whatnot. Yes. I think is the way to look at it. Yeah, that's right.
Just to let you know, Andre Lotterer seemed to have struggled, but he'll be outside of row number 1 for this second race, so that will be interesting to watch.
Yeah, and I feel for the guy. I mean, obviously, he would be familiar with this place in the flesh, and is an outstanding driver. I mean, he's won the 24-hour of Le Mans 3 times. He's been on every step of that podium. He's a Formula E driver right now with Porsche, who's just committed to a long-term partnership with Formula E, which is excellent. And obviously had a Formula 1 start as a guest driver during the whole season where Massa was injured and there was drivers moving around and whatnot. I believe that was when it was.
Both for Caterham, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Was it? I think it was. Yes, you're right. And it was, during the time that I think Sutil, that race where he was incredibly quick in the Force India. But had an incredible career. It's just this place on sim is so hard to learn. So there's our points update. That yellow line has cut a few more people. Quick Gabby, unfortunately, by virtue of not being here, is one of them. Matty Campbell, who's only raced part-time with us throughout the season, being as busy as he is. Obviously, he was very successful at Sebring last weekend. Is now out of the running, and DePilio falls from grace as well. So it's between Heike Yardier, Dan Suzuki, and now Emery.
Yeah, Emily Jones still leading the championship. Dan Suzuki always seemed to fare better in race number 2. Jaroslav Honzik in 3rd, Xavier Sanchez 4th. Gabby, by the way, got some real racing commitments this weekend. That's why you've not seen her. A couple of other drivers, as we say, have not been able to participate this weekend. Heike 360 is running in the iRacing 12 hours of Sebring, so a clash there. And of course, we have ourselves that third driver of Hydro who has some technical issues and can't race today. There are some people joking that it might be just because of his performance last time out, but we know that he's better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't think that has anything to do with it. I will say, Emil Thacker, I don't know what tank rounds he brought into the map this time, but it was the wrong one. He was playing, I think, War of Thunder or whatever, all week long. Probably, I went into his stream, I said, come on, Amir, you got to do some laps, man. It's a long circuit. And he kind of brushed me off and said, I got this. So I don't know, man. You didn't finish that race. I'm thinking maybe it was the wrong tank selection all week long.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, even 3 laps around the Nord side, but it is a lot of concentration. I have turned a couple of laps here on iRacing. The first one I actually ever did was at iRacing's HQ in a sprint car.
Oh, yeah, sure. No eyes on you there.
Yeah, all fine. It's one of these tracks that it's very easy to get around. It's very difficult to get around there quickly.
It is. Again, once you learn it, it becomes less intimidating. And I think the biggest thing is learning it. I had to do it. I'll just say it. It wasn't iRacing. It's a sim that's now very dated. It was GTR Evolution that I first got introduced to the track on. And it was punishing because you couldn't section it off. I think iRacing is really neat because when you're out there and you make a mistake, if you hit the reset button, it'll put you back to the start of that respective sector, which is a really smart decision from iRacing because you could just kind of get your first couple sections right and then just keep resetting in sections over and over again if you need to. If there's one corner or so you're struggling with, rather than trying to survive for 8 minutes just to get back to it, you can kind of focus that out, learn it in parts, and then put it all together, which is, I think, a really important way to learn this track.
Yeah, and I think there's so many people around the world that know Sector 1 in the Nordschleife so well because they've had to do that hundreds of times.
For example, I went there the first time, and I got my track map here. It's after, I think it's just after Bungschen, the left-hander. I think it's Essekruv. I don't know how you say them in German. I apologize. But it's a track, corner that I never really got to a lot in sim, and I always messed up. And in real life, I went up over the grass, and it was like, yep, okay. And then I remembered because real life, it scares the Jesus out of you. So same thing. Knew the first half, second half's harder to learn.
Let's get ourselves ready then for race number 2, shall we? Enough bantering about how bad we are driving around the racetrack. Let's watch some people who are better than us going around this race, or at least they think they are. As we get ourselves ready for race number 2, let's have a look at them at your starting grid coming up on your screen at the moment as we have a lovely look at the most famous corner on this track, of course, the carousel. And as Matt said, you want to make sure that you stay in kind of on that concrete area and not dip it all the way down to the apron. Amir Thacker, Cyanide, row number 1. Alongside him, our work driver of today of Andre Lotterer. Tony Kadan and Steve Brown, Super GT. Row number 2 with Maxime Bijmans and Mattia Vaca on row number 3. Will Ford, James West on row 4, Matt Malone, Dan Suzuki, row 5, Jimmy Broadbent and Pierre-Oliver Bellet in row number 6. Row 7, Porsche Zaze, Emily Jones, row 8, Jaroslav Honzik and Dave Cameron. Dave Cam won race number 1 last time out, got pole position last time out. Got himself a respectable run also in race number 2.
Yep.
You think he can come all the way from the back, especially knowing how hard this track can be to pass at?
Yes, because we've seen a lot of people making mistakes. So if he can stay out of that and has a good opening lap, he'll have a chance for it. Whether or not he can follow Emery through the field or keep close to her, because I think she had just as much pace. She just didn't get through as early, as you say, for qualifying. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
Did we just see?
I thought I did.
Yeah, I think we just saw there. Andre Porsche is not potentially going to start this race. Sorry, Andre Lotterer. That's the second time I've done that.
It's all right.
Andre Lotterer doesn't look as though he's going to take the green flag here. That's going to be very interesting. And Andre Lotterer then, that will make things a lot more difficult for this field because of the way that you've got rolling start procedures, not overtaking until the green flag, all these sorts of things. We're going to have to hope race control are on board here, just in case none of these drivers accidentally get a black flag.
Yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen, because that can definitely mess with the system a little bit. It's just one of those things, computer algorithms and whatnot. So we'll get to the flag. TK is going to have the pole in this case then, but again, you can battle for that outside position around turn 1, so we'll see how this shapes itself out. Remember, as you said last time, we were 4 wide at the start. Yeah.
And it's going to be just as crazy here. The lights are flashing from the number 22 car. He wants to get going. We exit the old pits then at the Nordschleife onto the modern part of the racetrack. Got yourself that hotel on the right hand side of your screen. Barney is ready to go, ready to wave that green flag for race number 2. Look how close the number 14 and 90 cars are as they're going to start picking up the pace there. Green flag out. We are now racing, and they are still close. And look at that, 3 wide already down into 1.
4 wide at the back. Emery's going to be in the middle of it too, so she's got to be very careful. Good response from TK. Break a little bit later than on a flying lap, a little bit less speed, but nice and early down that pit line, and deep they go, trying to defend the outside. Where's TK? Is he gone? He is. He outbraked himself. He's way off, and Rye was stuck on the outside, so I think he got forced off with him. That changes everything. It dances. It looks like he's inherited the lead.
Yep, Tony Kanaan from hero to zero then on race number 2. He got himself the race lead at the start, but it's fallen all the way back to P13 after outbreaking himself. Car turn around down at the hairpin, and it's been bounced around upside down and around as well. I believe that Super GT out early in race 2.
Yeah, not at all what he would have wanted, especially when he started essentially on the front row, inherited that position. Andre Lotterer, so that's very unfortunate circumstances, kind of never really fit back into position. And yeah, TK, braking on the inside in corner 1 is very tricky because I remember a few years ago, it was 2007, that famous rain race where Winkelhock led in Formula 1.
My word.
Remember the channeling of water, because there's actually a camber. It's almost like a river down there, but in the dry, that same thing applies because the inside right gets light on the car. So it's difficult to go late and deep on the inside there, and TK paid the price for it, especially on cold tires.
You really have been doing your Nürburgring Nordschleife for trivia, haven't you?
I love this place.
It's into the S's for the first time then. It is Dan Suzuki leading the way by 1.4 over Jimmy Broadbent. Emily Jones already again up into 3rd place. Pierre-Oliver Valette in 4th. Porsche also runs out your top 5. We're looking at Valette right now in that number 64 car. So we're going to get ourselves a Vodafone replay then. Having a look at what happened at the start with Tony Kanaan, as he was, of course, the driver who got himself the race lead coming towards turn number 1. But then, is he going to outbrake himself, or is it going to be a tag? Bit of both.
It was a tag, yeah, okay, good spot. We just saw the smoke, the tire smoke, so I assumed that he just outbraked himself and lost it on his own, but it was indeed a tap, and that's super unfortunate as well for Rai, because he got caught out in that. So, innocent victim in all of it.
Control will likely be looking at one after the race in terms of penalties, warnings, slaps on the wrist, merchandise, any of the above. Race Control having their power to reward, or I say reward, what the opposite of reward is to these drivers. Jimmy Broadbent in 2nd place, 1.4 back from Dan Suzuki right now, but Emily Jones is on Jimmy Broadbent's rear spoiler right now. This is going to be, I'm really looking forward to this battle.
Spoiler there, Will, just to clarify.
Yeah, it's a spoiler, it's not a wing.
I was, that's not why I'm glad you put it in. I was just thinking contextually for the sentence, that's all. As Emily is going to be hard on the hunt. You asked if she could come through and win this. I think it's totally possible. Already 3rd place. There was tons of drama, as we expected. She's gotten by Borzazo, and now at this point, it's at first lap, opening lap, I said positions were important. I think she could definitely win this. Dan Suzuki maybe has pace. We don't really know, because he came back from pit lane. I didn't really pay specific attention to his lap times, but chance maybe he can get some pace going in that car, but he's in a great spot already.
Dave Cam and P number 6 right now. You can see just ahead of him is Borzazo. So Dave Cam, with the incidents at the start, able to survive and work himself through the field. Dave Cam right now running in P number 6 in that 786 car. About 3 times per second back from Borzazo. But at this point on the racetrack, I tried to mention it in race number 1. It is for all intents and purposes single file here, unless someone goes off track and has a whoopsie daisy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so difficult to overtake here. There are a few spots. This is one of them. Slowest corner on the track, but you gotta have a lot of trust and really commit to the braking to do so. But you're right. There's not a lot you can do around this place. You just have to put them under pressure and force them into a mistake and wait for the opportunity to present itself and be in position at the key spots. Coming out of Bergwerk, like I say, to get the run down Kesselstrom, which we find ourselves on now. Coming out of the mini carousel, and then in through what is it? The Klein's carousel leads to Gallenhof? Yeah, Gallenhof before touching a Heuer to make sure you get the run into the draft. So there's lots of really key spots on this track. I'm trying really hard to remember the corner names, Will. Maybe we can just have a drink every time that I mess one up, because it's going to be a lot.
Oh, the drinking games are available. Please drink responsibly.
Dave Cam has... I didn't say what you were drinking, just drink.
Yeah, true. Dave Cam has got himself past Borzazo, by the way. So Dave Cam is into P number 5. Emily Jones in 3rd place, still right at the rear of Jimmy Broadbent. And again, Emily, the most serious I've seen her all season long in terms of the way that she's driving, working the wheel. Jimmy Broadbent, 00 car, got those racing gloves on. Absolutely love that setup that he has in terms of the wheel. He's got that handbrake on the right-hand side. So good there for Jimmy Bean. You just see that twitch as well. Really is working the wheel behind that 00 car.
Trying at this point. Dan also, we mentioned that camera, just going back and forth with more grace than he is on the steering wheel, although he's a little smoother than Jimmy Broadbent, if I'm honest. But both of them look like they need a haircut, Will. I'm just going to put that out there.
No comment. Don't forget the United Kingdom. They've not been able to have a
Locked
haircut.
out. I know. It's a COVID. It is
Yeah.
totally fine. I finally got one, so I'm
It's
just
okay.
proud. That's all.
Little shot by me. It's got the typical 1980s, fold around the kids' heads and chop around it. I think we're not that far away from people just going down that road. That will be the new fashion.
Honestly,
for
yeah.
summer 2021.
I'm sure if one celebrity does it and rocks it out with some sort of trendy clothing style, it will become popular.
Yeah. It's Dan Suzuki then leading the way, but he has had that lead eroded. Jimmy Broadbent right from the rear. This one they get a 3-horse situation as they come down the Dottinger, and it's just about a minute and a half time from now. And if you're Dan Suzuki, you're going to have to now start thinking, how do you play defense down the long back straight?
Yeah, and you're right. They've taken that weaving out of it, and I'm of two minds on that, because as long as you don't move in reaction, it's kind of fine. You pick the line first, and if they want to follow the draft, they can. But it does disallow maybe that draft, which is the point. And some people aren't a fan of that because, in their opinion, that's part of the race. So, yeah, it's fine either way as long as it's agreed upon beforehand. So, really, how do you get defensive? Well, you nail this sector. You be as focused as you can through the Beloff S's. They're really tricky if you catch the inside left curve. I love these two corners. They sweep so well together. And then you've got to nail the mini carousel, which is very different than the other one. Not as much camber, and the asphalt at the bottom actually matches it. So you want to hook the front wheel here. And then it actually launches just like that. Was perfect by Emery. It launches you 4 wheels in the air off the back of it, and that's the fastest way through. So, yeah, that's the only defense you have, is you just don't make mistakes around a place like this.
You alluded to it earlier on, and I think you're completely right. So now we do come down the Dottinger, we go on board with Emily Jones in that number 51 class. This is basically 5 racetracks built into one. And because of that, the way that you would normally approach cooling down tyres, so on and so forth, it's different here compared to other racetracks. And that is why certain drivers can gain half a second or a bit more, go too wide already. Jimmy Broadbent going to the race lead over Dan Suzuki. That's a bit of a block.
Bit late to move. He had the space to do it, and Emery saw it coming. But yeah, that's frustrating if you're Emery. And it's one of those ones that the stewards might give you a warning for. Say, hey, come on, you got to be aware of the draft. But not a penalty, I wouldn't say. But yeah, just something to be aware of on his part. If she's in that position next time and I'm her, you're probably going to be flashing the lights and letting him know you're there. Maybe recommend contact at that speed, but maybe just get right on the rear bumper so that his mirrors are nice and full.
Yeah, look at that. All weaving arch bars down in towards turn number 1. Jimmy Broadbent inside line. The outside line can work really well here down in the arena. But, Emily Jones has looped it. No, she hasn't. It's okay.
She hasn't. No, we had the gyro cam. That caught me out the other week, too. I honestly, I think Drew's out to get us. You know what? These guys think they're clever. I'm going to put camera. And, okay, Drew's now trying to not take responsibility and throw Alex Horn under the bus. But we all know that Drew's the one behind it, and he's the one that we need to blame for us looking like fools. But the point is, she tried the switchback, which is actually really smart because she knew she had the inside. But again, you're not running the arena section, so it immediately comes back. And Jimmy had the one. She did what she could. She's trying to make an opportunity out of it, and she's in a great spot. We've got 2 laps still to go around this massive circuit. And if she's in this position again, this close on the draft, she puts the pressure on. Just to go back though, you did ask. If you're on the last lap, you don't want to be in the lead necessarily Dottinger Heuer because you're going to lose that position. But Jimmy passed on Dottinger Heuer, and then down the GP straight, we actually saw Dan Suzuki almost repass with the draft on that straight. So there is some answers, but it changes on the last lap for sure.
I think it all comes down to where the finish line is. I think the finish line is just early enough that you're not going to be side by side. And look at an amazing run for the final couple of corners. You're not going to be side by side. You really get the momentum by out-braking into that first corner. And right behind Emily Jones, there is Dave Cameron now. Just a couple of tenths of a second separating them. A 4-way battle for the race lead. Jimmy Broadbent, double O car. Of course, Jimmy had himself a bit of a being punted out the way situation in race number 1. Now is bounced back, leading the way in race number 2. Dan Suzuki second, Emily Jones in third, Dave Cameron fourth. I always love Henry Cam. I will say one thing very quickly. The F1 season being back, my favourite part of that first 10 seconds of the broadcast. Henry Cam, lovely to see it here at the Nürburgring as well.
Yeah, it really shows off the track and how it snakes through the landscape. Probably the epitome of that, I would say. In this battle, 4 in a train around this place, your track knowledge is going to be tested because you are on a very narrow surface. You have those curves that are lethal, and there's a lot of details in the track. Again, I mentioned camber changes, different bumps around here. you've got to know your references and hit your marks, because it's going to be more difficult to see, especially with how blind this place is and how the sensation of speed is in terms of the walls being close and the narrowness, etc. You've got to hit them, because when you're following, it's hard to see references if they're in front of you. So this is where, again, they always say this: set 2 braking references, one on the side of the track, one right next to it. If you're blocked, you still have the other one to reference yourself with. So we'll see who can really apply those knowledge, and Dave Cam's in a great position to capitalize this lap, but again, he's got to make sure he hits those marks.
On board Dan Suzuki, number 48 car, right in the rear, Jimmy Broadbent. I was trying to make this point earlier on before they started racing too much. Because of the fact that this is a safe, 4 or 5 tracks combined into one, normally in GT races, you might get to a point where you have to cool those tyres down a little bit.
Yes.
Have to just relax them. You got to basically attack this racetrack, part by part for that reason. That's why we see certain drivers being very fast at certain parts of the racetrack, and sometimes almost because they left off a little bit at others.
Yeah, the Nürburgring, like I say, though, you're absolutely right. There's a couple of spots starting the Heuer is going to help them cool down, etc. Kessel shin a bit. But the biggest thing is that you drive it like a momentum track, and it's another reason you don't want to overdrive, because putting a car through that much, it's the same reason why they test so many production cars here. You're putting the car through its pace that long. If you underdrive and let the car flow and try and carry that momentum rather than drive it hard, brake hard, accelerate hard, turn hard, you just keep those tires cooler, you keep everything calm in the car, and it's actually the faster way around this place.
We talked about something a bit earlier on. Jimmy Broadbent did a lap once trying to do a lap of this racetrack in a certain type of car. I'd actually love to see someone like Jimmy Broadbent try to do a lap of this racetrack in the Porsche 919, of course, which holds the track record. As we have a look here, up above at this racetrack, and there's basically right now 7 drivers within 4.5 seconds of the race leader right now. This is incredibly close. We talked about this last time out as well, Matt. Some of the drivers are complaining a little bit about the setup, but what we've seen this race and the last race, that's ultra competitive in terms of how close these guys run to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And even around this, because we're seeing it again now, it's remarkable. I absolutely love it. I said at the start of the show, the surprise of the season for me is probably that the entire series has been so good to watch. Definitely entertaining personalities, but oh, that's the curve I talked about. You can go through there flat. That is a dangerous spot, and he somehow pulls off the wall and keeps it straight. Oh man, that's Dupilio, Alex Villette. Yeah, that is a brutal spot to get out. That's a heart and mouth moment.
And because you're so focused on setting yourself up for the carousel, so often you forget that part of the racetrack and just how it is so easy to go off. I'm hoping we can get ourselves a Vodafone replay of that in a moment's time. But the number 64 car of Villette is down into P6. Yardigay, Jaroslav Honzik has got himself up into P5 as a consequence of that one. Dave Cam is right on the rear of Emily Jones, about in 3rd place on track right now. And Dave Cam is hunting down Emily Jones. I'm not going to lie to you here. Jimmy Broadbent up to 1.4 since out front, but P2, 3, and 4 is going to be incredibly close with Hamilton adopting her.
This is the part of the track you can attack the hardest throw on the entire Nordschleife, in my opinion. You've got nice corners, good flow, they have runouts. Not runouts per se, there isn't a lot of them, but the curbing, the exits, you can really hunker down. So Emery's going to get back on the attack, and this is where they all link this together toward the Duttinga Heuer. So she's fine. Dave Cam's all over her, but again, there's not a lot of overtaking opportunities. This is where you start to have to attack to set up the moves.
Yep. As you see the 17-kilometer board there, as those 3 drivers still mighty close. Jimmy Broadbent, 1.6 now ahead of Dan Suzuki. We're going to get ourselves a Vodafone replay up for you now on your screen, and this is on board with Pierre. No, that's actually Pierre Villette just ahead on your screen, and we're going to see this one as they come through the corner. And there we are.
Yeah, he just clipped it a tiny bit of the curb, and at that speed, you're not saving a bounce. You're just going to overload the tires immediately.
Yeah, you can't abuse the high curves around this racetrack. At about 90% of the opportunity. Great little Vodafone replay there. Is that Dave Cam over Emily Jones already?
Yeah, Emery kind of chopped the nose a little bit. He wasn't alongside, but that's a bit touchy. He's going to have to rely now on the draft of Dan Suzuki to pull back into this, and he's already on it. Emery's moving over. I think Dave Cam gets some side. Yes, okay, this time Dan Suzuki senses him coming. He might get both. He's going to get boxed in. Dan Suzuki holds him in. I think It's a tricky one because he wants the side draft. If he moves over and lets Dave Cam through, he might be able to slingshot in behind him and actually get back by Emery. But then he has to concede the position. Instead, now they're going to go side by side under the bridge. The famous bridge of the startup bridge to Gantry. And I was about to say, you better have it sorted by Tiergarten. No way you're going too wide through there. Too bumpy, too fast, too narrow, and that's the consequence.
2 cars into the wall. One of them might just about survive. The other one completely has not. Dan Suzuki down to P number 7. Probably going to be out of this race. That was a wicked impact by him. Looking right now, that's going to be number 12 car of Jardier, who should get that move. Dave Cam looks like he did graze the wall a little bit, but it looks like he might just be okay for the time being.
I think he got the least of it. He obviously, Dan Suzuki spun off of his nose, and I think he just collected the wall on the right, trying to save it. But Dardier is the beneficiary of all this because he's now come straight back through. In fact, set the fastest lap of the race, which I don't think he would have done. I think Dave Cam had that in stone with the draft, but then obviously the incident changes that. So he now finds himself battling for the second place, or excuse me, for the final spot on the podium, 3rd place position, because don't forget, Jimmy Broadbent is still leading the way.
Yeah, you know what? I'm literally trying to figure out what it is like over on Jimmy Broadbent's social media feed right now. We remember when he won himself as part of the team, the 24 hours in the French countryside, as I now legally have to call it apparently. I think a win here at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Of course, Jimmy loves this racetrack, but Jimmy Broadbent winning a race here under these circumstances is going to be great for him and his community, of course. Don't get prize money going to his community as well if he does manage to win this race.
Yeah, and after the season he's kind of had a series up and down all year, for him to be leading around the, I guess it's fitting, right? The guy's driven, what, tractors, school buses, go-karts. What else is he? He's probably done more laps around this place in sim than anyone in the world, if I were to guess. So, putting a show right now, 2.1 second lead heading into the final lap. Last time around, he actually did a 7:59. So that was the fastest on my screen. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, it was the fastest of anyone so far. So he's on it right now.
And just to confirm, they are going ballistic on Jimmy Broadbent's social media feed. They are loving this right now.
I want to go over there already. I'm going to go join them.
Yeah, okay, you can join them. I'll do this last lap by myself. No one's going to notice anyway. I need to figure out some of the corners, but we'll be fine. And the thing is as well, because it's going to be so close between Emily Jones, Yas Lanzik, and Dave Cameron on this final lap, I've got to think they'll spend so much time battling amongst themselves that Jimmy might just be able to go away with this. Emily Jones, I say actually not. Emily Jones is 2.1 back from Jimmy Broadbent, running on her own island right now. It's P3, 4, 5, and 6. Really, that is the close battle we've got. We've got 3 of them on screen right now. So we've got ourselves another Vodafone read. It's going to be the end of the last lap. Nice little moment there. That's Dan Suzuki on your left-hand side of the screen. And there is the contact. Dan Suzuki hard into the arm code barrier. And actually, that's one of the scariest places, I think, in all the motorsports to have an incident.
It's just so fast. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I've heard some horror stories through there. Similar things. You just kind of trip over each other because it's so fast. You don't want to concede any of that stuff. And you need to use the whole track and thread the needle. Like I say, it's so bumpy. You're setting up to get on hard on the brakes for the chicane for the GP track. And I think Dan Suzuki, he leaves a little bit more on the inside, probably still wins that in terms of the duel because he can hold the inside line, lift a little bit more, and then get the brakes done straighter and with more time to set up for it. But yeah, just a 2-in-1 situation, and I think both of them needed to be a little bit more careful in that position and be more aware of sort of, not necessarily the rules of racing being side by side, but the way that the track flows.
Those of you just joining us, don't forget we are less than half an hour away from our coverage of the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup powered by iRacing. Immediately after this race, we've got ourselves a Boza post-race show and Tag Heuer countdown to green. So don't go anywhere if you're watching our coverage amongst Porsche and iRacing's social media channels. There is Jimmy Broadbent in the 00 car hard into the wall. That's Dave Cam.
Yeah, he's gone. He's around. We can see that lovely blue going backwards, surrounded by the green. Thankfully, he's not up in the sky with it, but that is around and down. The man who won the first race and looked like he was on pace for this one has had a horrible last lap. I suppose, start at the end of the first lap, but even still, it's been not the greatest circulation of the circuit for him.
Don't forget what I said. He did get some damage from that incident.
Absolutely.
And on a track like this, don't forget, because that section of the racetrack is so high speed, you might be able to navigate through the slower sections of the racetrack. All it takes is that cars come unbalanced once, and you're always going to be a passenger.
Yeah, it's a brutal place. The RSR, especially, with so much speed. I would rather be in the Cayman around here most, because it's just a little more forgiving in that sense as we're going to look back at it. So this is coming up into corner names eluding me. Okay, so similar thing to what we saw actually in the first race from Dan Suzuki. Little bit curve on the inside, but there's that camber change. It actually flicks you really hard, and the rear end will start to snap, and he just, I think, partially that, but then opened up too much, got the curve, and then the tire up on the curve. Not a lot of grip, not a lot of weight on it. Hits the grass, and the obvious happens. So, yeah, around he went. That's actually coming out from asphalt toward the X-Mule area of the circuit. I don't know exactly which corner it is, but
and we're talking less than a foot or 30 centimeters.
Oh, exactly.
As we're just having a look then at the number 6 car of Game of Muscle, you got Matthew Backer just ahead.
To put it in perspective, that's one of the places when they repave, similar to what they did through sort of Metzgefeld and the Kellenhard area, they'll actually resurface the underside, because that camber change is actually a compression. And just driving there on tourist days, you'll see maybe 30% of the people lose the rear there a little bit and have to oversteer correct. Yeah. It's just one of those spots. That's more than a correction, I think, this time.
That is going to be Game of Muscle and Boosted Media involved in that one. Game of Muscle and Boosted Media then. It's all over the place. And Emily Jones as well has had an off. Second time on the third lap that Emily Jones had herself an incident. And that means that, Honzik, Emily Jones into the armco barrier. It's all gone off here on this last lap.
I thought Borazon was going straight into her there. That camera angle did not look amazing. And now, actually, he's got a run. He must actually get past Yardi and get up to second place. He started this lap in 5th.
You know what? Jimmy Broadbent's speed has just exploded. He's had 1,000 more people watching him in the last 10 minutes. And now they know that Emily Jones is no longer passing for this race lead. Jimmy Broadbent has a 0.1 second advantage right now over Yardier. So Yaroslav Honzik in second place right now. Borges-Arzo in third. We're looking at Borges-Arzo, and we've only got ourselves less than a mile to go.
I think we got to put less than 3 for Jimmy B in the chat right now, because this is going to be his first win in the series, is it not? This is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, this is incredible. And of course, at the toughest track of them all, it's a track that Jimmy Broadbent loves so much, and he's going to have arguably one of the most dominant victories of the season, side by side, Borges-Arzo and Yaroslav Honzik here. I want to see the reaction from Jimmy Broadbent as he comes across the line, which will be any moment now. A 5.3 second advantage. He's got himself just now basically a straightaway to go. The fist is in the air. Jimmy Broadbent, the winner in the Porsche All-Stars race at the Nürburgring, and that is pure emotion by Jimmy Broadbent, and he's done it, and what a victory for him there. And I'll tell you one thing, his social media fans are loving this right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's loving this right now. I think we all are, isn't it? Like, the guy that is just such a charismatic human, so humble, so much fun, puts so much effort into it, and gets away with his first win in the series. I think on a new PC this week as well, because didn't he not have some issues? Wow, this isn't done. Ducking and diving as we are to the line, and Emery will recover, or if you want to call it that, to very distant 8th place. So that will have championship repercussions, because Dan Suzuki, oh no, he's actually further down. He had as much drama as she did, so that's unfortunate. But yeah, what a win for Jimmy. That's pretty sick.
I literally cannot keep up with the stream chat going on right now. It is that quick, even I can't read it. But yeah, Emily Jones and Dan Suzuki both having incidences on one of these tracks where, you know, you might get one being able to get the advantage and they both have difficulties. That's going to be one of the talking points when we head ourselves over to Countdown to Green for the Porsche Tag Heuer, the Esports Supercup by iRacing, because that's the issue. You know, Sebastian Job, Josh Rogers, one might have a good day, one might have a bad day. Chances are, a track like this can both have a bad day so easily.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes, with Pesk especially, the train that they're going to be running around this place, you can have a bad day because it was someone else's bad day. I mean, you can get caught up in an incident that you didn't have anything to do with around here. It's just so quick, so blind, and so little area to maneuver in those situations. Cyanide and Jimmy are friends. They're both under the same agency, but I think Cyanide might be trying to steal the thunder from Jimmy here right now, because Cyanide, you were definitely not the winner today. I saw that.
Off the way on the podium there.
Trying to steal Jimmy's thunder.
Yeah, so Jimmy Broadbent, Porsche, Yaroslav Honzik, P1, 2, and 3. Yeah, Oliver Valette, P4, Dave Cameron, P number 5. Backer, Jones, Malone, Suzuki, and Ford round out your top 10. The rest of those results coming through on your screen right now. I will say Super GT had a lot of people rooting for him coming in. Of course, he knows this track so well. He's going to be one driver that's going to be a little bit upset, I think, after his performance here today, because we did expect quite a lot from that guy.
All right. Wow, changes again. The yellow line of doom has taken out one more. Heike can no longer win the championship. Yardier, Dan, Suzuki, and they're chasing Emery. That gap, I think, was 67 at the start of this race, or 64, so it didn't change much, really.
Yeah, indeed so. So just 2 points different. My maths is correct. Yardier still in the battle for the metaphorical championship, but Xavier Sanchez, Heike 360, we mentioned earlier, couldn't race today due to participating in the iRacing 12 Hours of Sebring. Wonderful look there down at the carousel. One of the most famous one of the most famous corners, shall we say, in the world. And you see the elevation change there as well. We're gonna get ourselves some interviews in just a moment's time or so. Once Jimmy Broadbent is ready for us. But I will say one thing. Overall today, Matt, yes, more incidents, but we kind of expected that as we now welcome you to the Boza Post-Race Show.
Yeah, absolutely. We did expect a lot of incidents, and but what a place. I mean, even just doing a lap at this place in Sim is just so much fun, and it's one of those circuits that it's fun to just drive by yourself, get on there and go and challenge it. It's so cool to see close racing around here. I think it was kind of expected. We knew we were going to see some cars and walls at this place, and we definitely got that. I'm sure we'll see more as the afternoon goes on with the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup coming up next. But overall, really cool, really good drafting. Great to see them handle the RSR around here. That car with that speed, you have to be so precise, and heck, Jimmy B just proved it to be perfect.
And we have got Jimmy Broadbent here, ready to talk to us. And, well, Jimmy, congratulations. That's all we can really say at that point. You had yourself a great run, especially in race number 2. You had yourself that race lead that you got down the Dottinger Heuer, and then from there, you never really looked back.
Kind of unexpected, to be honest. It's always weird to look on your relative, and to be gapping Dan is something I've never really had before. But yeah, really a bit speechless. Any track to do it, I think here is the one that I wanted the most. So yeah, happy with that.
Yeah. We're being asked by our director if you'd like to turn your attention 90 degrees to your right-hand side and give us a bit of a wave. There we are. We've got a wave at the very least there. Of course, multitasking at the same time. But this, we know, Jimmy, is one of your favourite racetracks. We know how much you love this track. We've seen you do so many streams at this track in various cars and various things over the years. How does it feel to win your first race in the Porsche All-Star Series at this track?
I feel like if I didn't win, then like maybe all those races I've done in the past all those laps might have gone to kind of waste a little bit, really. But yeah, it's always special to win here because it's not an easy track, especially in this car. It's a very stiff setup we have, so you've probably seen a few people touch curbs and then find themselves getting introduced into their good mate, Mr. Barry R. And we saw a lot of that going on. So it was really tricky getting used to the car around here, but once you get with it, it just flows. It was so nice. So yeah, perfect storm.
And you've got, coming up next in the series, of course, a track where it has another sentimental feel to you. We're going to Circuit de la Sarthe, and I was just saying on the stream how emotional it was seeing you getting that 24-hour victory there, not so long ago. You're going to another track that you love. And again, is it the RSR that you feel is giving you a bit more of an advantage in these couple of racetracks?
Yeah, I think I gel more with the RSR because it's got a bit of downforce. I'm one of these people that are rubbish in most things that haven't got big wings on. So this has the most downforce come across so far. So I'm a bit better in it. But you can always see even now, even in this car, under heavy braking, that the rest of the guys tend to do a bit better than I do. But I think that in the fast stuff, I kind of make up a bit in the downforce bits. So, but the thing is, I'm on that like second to the south. It's just a big straight line, isn't it? So gotta be careful there.
Pretty much. And of course, by winning this race, you get some credits to give out to your amazing community. I was watching it and watching your community on that final lap. Any plans on how you're going to give away that prize money to your community?
I didn't even know I got any. This is how unused I am to winning. Nice. I don't know. I'll figure something out. That's really cool. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Well, in the meanwhile, Jimmy Broadbent, Double O car victory. Congratulations, winning here today at the Nordschleife. It's always nice to give some good news to someone, Matt. And now Jimmy realizes, yep, you've got some money to give to your community, not for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe he should have been winning more. No, I'm kidding. That's awesome to see Jimmy do so well today. And really, really good result. Very fun race to watch. And I can only imagine the eruption in his YouTube chat and whatnot during that race. So very, very cool. But man, someone who snuck through under the radar of that race, benefited from positions. Yardier is with us, Will.
He is.
Hey, hello.
Hello. Hello. Are you doing the interview or am I doing the interview?
You go ahead. Well, I guess I'm on camera, so I'll start and maybe we can pass to you.
Okay.
But speaking of passes, Yardier, bit of drafting going on, some contact in front of you. Did you just hold your breath and hang on for some of those?
Yes, in both of the races. Like, especially in the first race, I don't know what was happening, but in the first lap, I was struggling so hard. I feel like I crashed like 4 times, almost. And in the second race, I took like completely different approach, and I was like way more careful and very patient, I would say. I was very, very careful there, and it actually worked. Yeah, very nicely. I think I could have. I'm kind of sad and happy at the same time because like the second position and third position is super awesome on Nordschleife, especially my favorite track. But I was really sad there with Emily crashing in front of me. I had to slow down so much, and Boria got me there. So I was kind of gutted in the last few corners.
Yeah, I mean, it was the drama of it, but you're right. I mean, It was a heck of a race. What's the deal? Are you moving into an apartment? You've had these boxes behind you for a while right now. Are you moving? Are you coming? You going? What's the deal?
No, that's basically some new stuff I ordered and got, and I'm basically putting some stuff for my followers in and sending it away. You know?
Oh, cool. Very cool. Wicked. I'm going to go follow you now.
Sorry for the mess.
We were just wondering. Maybe he was like moving up in the world. We're like, oh, this guy's going to be in a new house eventually. Like, very cool. Well, I mean, you said it's your favorite track, but it's not an easy one. How much preparation did you have in this car?
2 days ago, I did like a half an hour practice, and today the whole qualification. I know the track inside out. It's like, but it was my first time ever driving in iRacing, so I must say it was really challenging.
It's always different. Yeah, different physics from game to game and slightly different scanning. So it's perspective, camera, whatever it is, but it's always a little different. Are you ready for Circuit de la Sarthe? Because right now you're one of 3 people that still statistically could win the championship.
I'm curious. I mean, I have done 2 or 3 24-hour races in Le Mans in iRacing, but it's a slow down heaven in those 2 chicanes on Mulsanne. So I don't know what to expect. I think it's going to be mess because there's going to be 4 or 5 cars going wide in the first lap. So let's just try to stay away from the trouble and survive.
Yeah, well, you survived today. Well done to come through the field. That was pretty exciting to watch.
Thank you.
Well, that was fun. I've got one more question for you, by the way, before you disappear, Yari. You talk about the 30 minutes practice that you had. That's basically an out lap, a fast lap, and an in lap. We talk about the qualifying here. It's probably the toughest qualifying we're going to make you do all season because you had to do that full lap, that full out lap, and everything. How hard was it knowing that you only had a couple of runs despite the 2-hour window?
I was really happy that we had a 2-hour window because it gave like a. It was like refreshing, you know, like those 3 laps, which we do usually, is really stressful because I obviously play this game only for these championships, so I'm not very experienced in it. But that 2-hour, it gave me like a fresh vibe. And basically for like 40 minutes, we were just laughing on a voice chat together with Jimmy and having fun and driving around. So I think it gave a lot of good practice and like a very nice, easy qualification.
Yeah, well, thank you very much again, Jaroslav Honzik, then coming home on the podium here today. And that's one thing as well. I like the fact that Jade was just talking about that, Matt, because this, yes, is a championship, but it is also a group of influencers, many of whom are good friends with each other. out here having some fun. We have seen a couple of crashes here today. We're not going to see arguments to send on social media and firestorms left, right, and center.
No.
It's competitive, but good-hearted fun.
Yeah, we'll see that a little bit later on after the pest race, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. It's been super fun, and the reason these guys are influencers and in the positions that they are is because they are great personalities. They are entertaining, they're informative, they're fun.
Yeah.
It's a really great group of people, and I really have enjoyed getting to know some of them a little bit better because I'm not as familiar with all of them, but certainly just seeing them race as competitively as they have. So very cool. We, I believe, have DePilio joining us, who had a heck of an off today, but still survived at the end. I don't know how. That was a pretty big accident. Just the slightest curb and the biggest consequence.
Yeah, definitely, guys. It's the green hell, actually. So, yeah, it was a bit of a code brown emergency on my side. I don't know how I saved it, but I did. It is really tricky with the 911 RSR, especially on the green hell, because the curbs are so high that if you touch just a little bit the curb, then you can just go off and go into the wall. So yeah, it was tricky, but at the end of the day, I think I did P5 and P4, which is absolutely great. So yeah, it was tough.
I mean, considering the drama, to recover back to P4 is incredible. But like you said, green hell, there's a lot of incidents for everyone. Is this a circuit you rank? Do you actually feel comfortable here? Because I feel like even though I love it, I'm never comfortable per se, but
I should say that, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable because I really liked the Nordschleife, especially after the carousel section. I really love this section, and yeah, I'm pretty comfortable on that track. But I just find out that, yeah, everybody just was I don't know, like worked so hard to be very quick on that track, and I was like, yeah, maybe I didn't practice enough for this race, but eventually, it's more a game of being the one who doesn't make any mistakes, and fortunately, I saved some mistakes. So yeah,
how
at
long?
The end of the day, I'm pretty happy with that.
How many laps would you say in sim did it take you to learn the Nordschleife?
Oh, not that much actually.
Really?
Oh yeah, I think like maybe. Well, no, maybe 50, yeah.
That's
50 laps.
I was like 1,000, so you did pretty good if it's 50 laps. So that's pretty impressive. You've already beat me on what your favorite section is, but do you remember what your first car that you drove around it was in sim?
That's actually a good question. Maybe the 911 Cup, actually. I think that was the first one on iRacing, definitely. Yeah, and
you picked
later
the hardest
on,
one first.
Sorry, what?
You picked the hardest one first.
Yeah, definitely. But at the end of the day, the 911 is a good car to understand the physics of a GT car. So yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool. That's it. I mean, it is hard for a reason, and it's a challenging car. You're dead right. So that's very cool. This would have felt like a dream then, with all the downforce and power that the RSR had.
Yeah. It's always especially a bit tricky, to be confident in the aerodynamics of those cars, because the more you go faster, the more you have downforce and the more you have grip. So it's always a bit tricky to have that kind of stuff in your head.
Perfect. Well, hey, great job. And you survived, you got through, you get some points, and we move to Le Mans next week.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, guys.
Talking about survival, Matt, I can't believe it. I managed to do 6 laps of the Nordschleife, and somehow act as though I kind of know what I'm talking about. I did. We've done it.
What do you mean act? That's all I ever do.
Well, yeah, pretend. By the way, we do have to come up with a name when we go to Le Mans in a couple of weeks' time for that first chicane, because I'm not calling it what its official name is right now. I'm sure we'll get into a lot of trouble. We welcome, by the way, to the quad bot. Got Connery Maddock, Paul Smith joining myself, and Matt, as we are counting ourselves down to green for the Porsche Attack Heuer Esports Supercup. And Paul, let's just jump straight in at the deep end. It was that close for Joshua Rogers being one step closer to the championship. Over the last week or so, Sebastian Job had himself initially a qualifying ban overturned on appeal, and Sebastian Job is just about still in on the championship.
Yeah, so I mean, Sebastian was expecting to receive qualifying ban when we spoke to him last time out. Yeah, he's won the appeal. He's on a knife edge here. He's got to be careful. And this circuit, it's so difficult to overtake here that qualifying will be crucial to be able to get yourself in that top 6 to 8 drivers. So you really got to see how he performs here. But he needs a big week. He needs Joshua Rogers to lose a ton of points today.
And Connery, we talk about the upcoming racetracks, and in their own series, the Nordschleife, Zillersaaf and Monza could each be classified as a bogey track because there's so much that can go on and so much that can change just literally like that. But we've got them one after the other. The top of the championship is one. The bottom, that top 20 consistency more than ever is going to be so vital because one bad race could be the difference between being in 2022 and being out.
And it might also cause the championship to swing a little bit more as well, as we'll get the points up here. Joshua Rogers, 99 points ahead of Sebastian Job. That has come down by quite a margin, at least the gap between Rogers and Job. So Job, like you said, still very much within a championship fight, but you're absolutely right about these final tracks of the season. There are tracks that are raced completely differently to your standard circuits in very different ways. Of course, we can talk about the Nürburgring all day long, and we will throughout this broadcast, but you also got Circuit of the Saab, big draft track there as well. And then you got Monza, which is famous for its slipstreaming and keeping the packs together. So it's going to be an absolutely crazy end to the season, and you're right, it's just keeping out of trouble is going to really pay off for any of these drivers that are able to do that. Joshua Rogers, though, especially, because remember, last season, this very same racetrack, contact with Max Benecker basically sealed his hopes in terms of a championship in that year.
Yeah, there's one driver just at the bottom of the top 20, Martin Kroenke, a multiple-time world champion on iRacing, who, Matt, looking as though he might have to pull his socks up and get a bit lucky in these last couple of rounds of the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of stuff going on in terms of the top 20 right now because, again, that's the requalification spot. The yellow line, again, just as we had at the All-Star race, that's who's still mathematically and statistically possible or has a chance of winning the championship. But let's be honest, we know it's between a few drivers at the top with the consistency of these guys. But the top 20 is another battle we have to start looking at and really focus on because there's some big names, very, very skilled names that are on that bubble right now.
Yeah, indeed so. And it's worth noting that after this race, basically there's only going to be 170 points left and open for opportunities in the championship. So basically, the way things look, we could be looking at a 5-horse race in the championship once we're said and done here at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. We would like to say thank you very much to you for watching coverage of the Porsche All-Stars race, of course, the Boza post-race show, and Tag Heuer Countdown to Green. For more information about the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup, you can check out iRacing.com/Supercup and go to iRacing.com right now as well to figure out how you might become a new member on iRacing and experience the excitement that is sim racing. Paul Smith and Matt Trivette are coming up next with the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup.
flag drops. Away we go from the start of this final feature race in the Porsche Esports Supercup. Brilliant launch.
40 of the best sim racers. $200,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? This is Racing for Immortality. This is Esports personified. This is the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup.
The great Jackie Stewart coined the phrase the green hell, and well, it accurately describes what this track can be like. Hello everybody, welcome along to the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup by iRacing, and it's round number 8 of the championship. We're nearly at the end of this series, and what a tremendous season it has been so far. Paul Smith and Matt Trivet here for you for all the coverage of the sprint race and the feature race here today. And Matt, we just saw tremendous action from the All-Stars. Now the professionals, the esports professionals, get out there and get the chance to try and set themselves onto a path of glory.
Yeah, absolutely. A glorious place to be indeed. And in this car, at this track, this many drivers, this much skill, it's going to be a spectacle. It's going to be incredible to watch these guys not only navigate the circuit and thread the needle around this place, but battle with each other in doing so. And man, oh man, qualifying could not be more important. Not only is it's again, the length is similar, but shorter amount of laps, but it's so hard to pass here. And because of the nature of the circuit, how blind it is, how punishing it is, you might come flying over the crest and suddenly there's 3 cars blocking the track in front of you due to an incident. So yeah, further up the order you are, the better you are off today.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get yourself into that maybe top 6, top 8 in qualifying to be able to get yourself the best part of get yourself into that fight for the win. Of course, don't forget, if you do want to join us on iRacing, check out iRacing.com. Start your career here on iRacing, because remember, every day is a race day here on iRacing. I personally race on iRacing myself, so you may end up fighting against me on track, although if that's the case, give me a wide berth, will you please? But these drivers, they're committed, they're professional, they get to put in hours and hours around this track. I mean, we get to see the track map here. A tremendous circuit and a tremendous challenge for these drivers.
It's a tremendous challenge for any driver anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter who you are. There's a reason legends are born here and live here and can exist here. Sabine Schmidt's a perfect example. That girl obviously passed away recently, but she was phenomenal around this place and faster than probably some Formula One world champions would be on this track. I mean, this is a whole characteristic unto itself. That's why it has its own racing license. That's why to race in its respective series, or the Nürburgring 24 Hour, it's now the NLS. It's no longer the formerly the, what was it called before? I can't remember. VLN, thank you. You have to come to an RCN race. Doesn't matter if you're a world champion or not. You still have to get qualification for this track because of how difficult it is.
Yeah, certainly you can see that plus 150 corners. You know, people can't decide as to how many exactly it's got. There's some debate about that, but we do use pretty much all of the Grand Prix circuit. You miss out the arena section, you cut through on the 24-hour layout, and then you head on out into the countryside and look at those elevations. You can see on that 3D map just how much elevation change there is out here today.
Yeah, tons. It's such a cool spot. I mean, again, this place, I mentioned it in the All-Star Series, 1927 was built because there wasn't employment in this region and they were trying to give it a boost. And it literally runs through about 3 to 4 different towns. Moospith's on the front straight. Then you got the town of Nürburgring where the castle is next door. You've got Adenau. There's a couple other towns I can't even name that go there. And it really is its own community, connected both by the racetrack literally, but also in terms of the interest and the culture around it. It's such a great place to go if you're a car person. So very, very cool circuit. And I can't imagine a world without it. I mean, not even from a racing standpoint, but think of how many production cars are tested here and how important this place is. These corners you're looking at are to the entire automotive industry.
Absolutely, just on the exit of Exmüller there, we just saw, but we'll come to live pictures then. So it's a 12-minute qualifying. Well, it's the best part of 8 minutes to set a lap time here, so it's going to be a one-lap shootout. And it's so easy to make one little mistake here that getting a wheel onto the grass can completely invalidate your lap, even at the start of the lap here, heading down onto the Grand Prix circuit.
And Sebi goes for the super wide entry. A lot of people will actually straighter and centered in the approach to turn one and actually break sort of over time at the exit line because it gives you a straight line, but he's got confidence to go deep. You're right. The fact that it's one lap, Paul, makes it such a difficult proposition because guys are confident. Let's be honest. You get guys like Sebastian, you get guys like Josh. All of these guys have to drive with that level of confidence that they know they're the best, they know they're fast. But it's so easy at Nürburgring, and typically if you had 2 or 3 laps, you'd put in a banker lap so that you can push and afford the mistakes because you have one to fall back on. Around here, it's so punishing, and you don't have that option. The mental approach to this qualifying is going to be very interesting.
As you see, Australian Dave Moore, here's one of the drivers who, well, had his championship battle curtailed a little last time out at Spa in that instant between him, Seb, and Josh. Mitchell de Jong, the American, working his way through the centre S. And Jack Sedgwick, we've not really seen much of Jack. The man from Leeds, he's worked his way through the Schumacher S there and through to the left-hander. So we're seeing these drivers putting in these laps. This could be a big day for somebody who maybe hasn't had the best of seasons. Get yourself a really good qualifying spot. You have done the battle well.
Yeah, and I am genuinely curious what some of the pro guys would do. I mean, I know there's guys like Freddie Rasmussen and Bono Huis that are probably watching right now, and maybe drop me a line, guys. What would your approach be? Because for me, it's one of those situations, and I guess how I'm feeling on the day. Obviously, I'm not as fast as these guys, but I'm just trying to relate to that position, and I don't know what you'd want to do in this type of qualifying. Go for it, but the risk is just so huge.
Well, that's it. I mean, myself, whenever I'm qualifying around here, I've always just left that little maybe 2-3% on the table there, just to make sure I get a lap time in.
Exactly. It's not that you're backing off completely. That's not what I'm saying. You're dead right. It's just that last little bit of performance that you squeeze out of it, but it comes at the cost of, maybe you drop that wheel over a curve because you have to, and suddenly, boom, you're sideways, or you get a 1x even. Something as painful as that might be.
Yeah, it's great to be able to see all the different liveries here. Look at the airtime up over floodplats there. That's going to be a feature of this race here. You will be seeing drivers getting airtime there and elsewhere around the circuit. So these guys are committed. Jeff Gyasi heading towards Schradenkraus for the first time. There he goes. And, well, here's a driver who's been sort of quiet on the season so far. Marino Sarica, he's pushing it in terms of getting his lap time in. He will get his lap time in. But Marino Sarica, he's pushing it to try and get to the end of this qualifying. But he's been one that's just been quietly just working his way through the season.
I don't know if we have any mathematicians out there, but if you want to look at the percentages in difference of time between the RSRs that we've seen at the All-Stars versus the Porsche Cup cars at the previous track, we've run the 2 cars out, which I think was just Spa, to be fair. But now, we had, 7:59 was the fastest lap for the RSR on the same configuration. We're looking at about 8:10 for these guys in the Porsche Cup car. That's a small, again, it sounds like a lot, 10 seconds is a lot in racing, but percentage over the lap. That's how fast these guys are in these Porsche Cup cars. They could probably beat me in a Porsche Cup car if I was in the RSR right now in iRacing. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, you saw the inch perfect.
I say that and desperately hoping that's not true, but I don't actually know. So
I think I'd be about 8.5, maybe 9 minutes around this track in this car. But there you go. You were seeing this. I was mentioning Johan Hart was absolutely inch perfect on getting his line right up to the white line, not touching the grass. Toivonen, another drive. The Finn is working his way through, avoiding those curbs. He could only hit a couple of the curbs around this first section of the lap.
Here's one right here.
Yeah,
Hotzenbach. And the reason I cut you off, sorry, so I just want to point that out because you heard Jimmy Broadbent say the setup that they're using is quite safe. That curb previously is the one that actually doesn't make that much difference for pace. In the rain, they use it here because it hooks the car a bit. But these cars are a little bit softer than the RSR, so I think, and without that rear diffuser, they'll get away with more curb.
That, and also the fact that these drivers, they get to play with their setups. They will have spent That's part 2 week on the setups here, trying to get everything dialed in to where they feel comfortable. Plunging down into compression, and then up towards Adenauer Forest is Daniel Lafuente. And this is a tricky part of the track. You always have to go a little bit slower than you imagine that you need to. You think that you can carry a bit more speed through there. Before you know it, you're into the arm curve, saying hello to, as Jimmy said, everybody's favourite friend.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Barriere, I think he called it. I like that. I like those little joking tracks and things like that. So very cool. That's why he is who he is, Jimmy, with personality. Diago Pinto, this guy has been pretty, I guess,
Racing.
Racy is a great word. Aggressive, but also had some good results. I don't want to say inconsistent, but always in that sort of teen range in the results. There's just been a few dramas that have cost him out, but he's one of the guys that's got to watch out for that top 20. Right now, I think he's at 16th in the championship, so that sounds all good and well, but 2 bad results. A couple of guys near the back have a good day, and could be looking at that bubble, so he's got to be very careful. Obviously, rookie in the championship this season, so wants to return next year, no doubt, with a little bit more confidence.
So running through, Salva Talons is plunging downhill here in the sunshine. You saw on that previous shot Joshua Rogers in the shade. The dynamic skies here on iRacing, meaning that parts of the track, you see, he's just going into shade now as Talons. So the cloud cover moves across the track, and with it being such a big circuit, it's a real shame we don't rain, because if you had rain, it could be raining on just a quarter of the circuit here, and it would be all sorts of chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was 2017, that famous Audi comeback. South African Race Morocco Cup came over. I can't remember his name right now, but the point is, yeah, you have different around here. You get different shadows, different winds in different places, rain in different corners. So much. Someone in chat, please remind me of the name. I can't remember right now because I'm not up to the task, I suppose. But someone who is Connery, please fill my brain with information.
Well, the one Nürburgring race I remember with a lot of weather affecting it was a couple of years ago when it was completely snowed out and they had to all stop out there on circuit and just wait for the weather to pass. And you saw that the cameras, in the middle of the circuit were picking up all these drivers stranded in the snow and ice, but the cameras on pit lane, it was completely bone and sunny. So that's how the weather can, in the real world, affect things here at Nürburgring. Hopefully with that at some point. Here on iRacing, but we'll see Sebastian Job here. He's going to be the first one to head his way across the line to set a qualifying time here, so it's really this one and only chance, isn't it?
Kelvin van der Linde.
Kelvin van der Linde, yes. Well done.
Core Carl actually was the one who got that in chat, so thank you.
But yes, so Carl Janssen, former driver in the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup in the chat there. Hello, good to see you on there. But yes, Sebastian Job. Let's focus on this year's drivers here then. Into Tiergat. This is his one and only opportunity. He's obviously not imbalanced his lap at all, or else he wouldn't be carrying on. He's pushing to the end, right up to the barrier there. And then across the line, what will his time be? We'll start getting those lap times up on the left-hand side of your screen. And there you go, 8 minutes 20.0. Dane Warren 8:19.8. Well, this is good. De Jong in 3rd place. The times are coming in thick and fast now for us. And, well, we're having to wait and see. Martin Bunker working his way down the Donga Hut and see what time he's getting. Graham Carroll, 2 seconds off of the pace down in 14th. That sounds like a lot, but around this track, it's not the biggest of margin as that.
It's funny you say that because you're absolutely right. Again, we talk about percentages over distance. It's not that much. Again, that's why the 107% exists, not a definitive time. The thing is, though, these guys are so close and so competitive. It still is pretty enormous for a qualifying time. Whether that translates to race pace, again, we talk about the risk. You get one lap, you don't next. Maybe he had a wiggle somewhere and he went, I'm going to back it off because he only gets one shot at it. So it's again, very psychological in that sense. But I think he's going to end up finding himself maybe outside the top 20 in this qualifying session. And around here, that's, again, a very tough position to be in. There's so much going on in this circuit. Talked about those blind corners, come over the hill, someone sideways having their own moment, and suddenly you're a part of their world, or very quickly you become one, 2 worlds become one.
Well, Kevin Ellis Jr., you saw go across the line. He's in 9th. His teammate, Zach Campbell, in 10th place. Rest of your riders are coming across the finish their laps. I can tell you, one driver who started a lap who will not finish is Josh Thompson. He's about his lap. He was actually thinking he wouldn't make it this week with technical problems, but he is out there. Here we go then. Daniel Lafuente, the next driver to come across the line. What will his time be here as he crosses that timing line there, the fin line, the timing line, a lot earlier than the start line. He did a 8:21.3, puts him 12th place. Here's the championship leader then. It's Joshua Rogers, the Australian currently residing in Germany. And it'll come across the line. What will his time be? Because he wants to be up there at the front. Can he get to a pole position? He hasn't had a pole position for quite a while. And there you go, an 8:19.3, 4.5 tenths faster than Dane Warren, his fellow Australian. At the moment, it's Australia 1 and 2, but here comes Charlie Collins, a real sensation this season.
Has been, absolutely. Rookie class of the field, no questions. That Campbell's looked impressive, but Charlie's just been so consistent at the front. You mentioned he's been rear gunning as well for Josh Rogers at times. We'll find out if he's going to be ahead of him this time. It would be pole position provisionally if he can do it. Find out. I'm waiting for the time. Paul, prediction?
Oh, it's 6th is where he is. So he's in that shout. He's in the shout for a good spot. But the time has run out here. You do not get to finish a lap if you started it. So here will be your starting grid for the sprint race of round number 8 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. It's an Australian front row of Josh Rogers and Dane Warren. Sebastian Job third ahead of Mitchell de Jong with Jeremy Bootloob and Charlie Collins. Row number 4 then for Diogo Pinto. Great performance from the Portuguese driver ahead of Johan Hart, who was on the bubble in 20th in the championship. Backham, Ostgaard, Tetela and Ellis Jr. round out row number 6. Row 7, Zach Campbell ahead of Jamie Fluke with Daniel Lafuente and Jeff Giassi. Max Beneke and David Williams row number 9. Row 10 for Martin Kroenke ahead of Maxime Ramstein. Then Moreno Sarica, Graham Carroll, Ricardo Castroledo and Jack Sedgwick in row number 12. Row 13, Salva Tellens and Brian Lockwood with Pekka Toivonen and Alejandro Sanchez with Josh Thompson, the last of your drivers on the grid. 29 drivers competing here today, and they'll be getting themselves all ready for the start of this race. Of course, a standing start for all of them here today, and they will be taking themselves to the grid. Predictions, Matt, what do you think is going to happen here?
It's so tough. I mean, it's great to see our protagonists near the front. I am very concerned about the middle sections, but it's get through the GP circuit, get those tires good and ready, and stay out of it. The first lap following, again, hit your marks, have your references right, stay off the curbs unless it's one of the very few spots you can get away with it, and survive. That's the biggest thing.
Well, drivers still find themselves to the grid. Of course, cold tires. No tyre warmers on these cars, so cold tyres heading in to the opening of the lap here. And there you see the drivers on the grid, waiting patiently for those lights to turn green. We're getting all set then for round number 8 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. The revs rise here at the Nürburgring. Green light, away we go then, and it is a good start from Josh Rogers. Bad start from Dane Warren. He's already down to 5th place here as they're heading into the first chicane here at the start of the lap. Plunge downhill. There's contact further back. Oh, there's multiple cars involved in this one. That's the problem with this circuit. Yeah, Charlie Collins involved in that one. And, well, Pekka Toimonen's at the back there as the rest of your field. Oh, one of the Rahal Letterman Lanigan cars. That's Kevin Ellis Jr. taken to the grass. He's got damage. That's him. He's out of this race already. He's not even made it. 3 corners there, Matt.
That's incredible. I mean, that's, again, 2 big names in the series. Charles Collins, we just talked him up. Incredible rookie that he is. He's off early. Then you get Kevin Ellis Jr., who's been a championship contender at points this season, out already, and we saw that car disappear from the screen. He called it. Too much damage to continue. And this opens things up again for that top 20 guys to score points. Sure, you might not catch the names we mentioned, but it's about the bubble and the other guys you're competing for that spot. So good day for points down the back order that are going to inherit those positions. Bit of a lead pack of 5, get a bit of a gap based on where Charlie fell out from. And it's Matt Backham that's on the back of it going to try, Dane Warren in the Lego car on the back of it that's going to try and hold on. Who's fallen a little bit down from that opening start position that he had. And that tells me, obviously, a bit of jostling for position, but he'll have to be patient and just hold on and wait for the opportunity. Mistakes matter here.
Yeah, that front five then just breaking away, and if they can break that slipstream, which I think they're close to doing already, and they are able to just pull away, as long as they don't fight each other and slow each other down. Rogers was trying desperately to get away from Sebastian Job. All he needs to worry about is just getting himself some good points. Sebastian Job, Mitchell de Jong, they're fighting it out over second place in the championship here. They're running close together with Jeremy Boudleau and Dave Warren behind. And then that queue of cars, Diogo Pinto in 6th place, all the way down to Johan Hart in 27th in a queue. And I mean a queue of cars. It's like somebody driving on a bank holiday following a caravan being towed on an air road over here in the UK. It is just absolutely a huge queue of traffic and nobody can get by.
Yeah, no, you can't. And this is the thing. Prediction right now, Job will lead the end of the first lap. Rogers doesn't, as you say, need to fight for wins at this point. It's just going to be battles. Look at that queue of cars. But Dottinger Heuer, 3 wide, I think, 4. We're going to see 2 wheels dipping on the grass trying to make space as they draft by each other.
Well, it's also the run out of Bergwerk as well, and climbing up the hill through Bravery Corner that really is another overtaking opportunity. You'll get so much for slipstream there as we're seeing this queue of cars heading down through Hamburg for the first time, and then down Foxhole, and then Compression, and wow. Mitchell de Jong there, 3rd place you're seeing on the screen there, trying to just get the pressure on those drivers in front of him, mainly Sebastian Job. Here's the Vodafone replay of the start then, and it was a great start for Joshua Rogers. One driver who didn't have a great start is Kevin Ellis Jr.
Yeah, I mean, initial getaway was fine. It was just the drama a little bit later on, and there it is. He gets caught up in it. The spin from Mullins causes a bit of a backlog, and then he just chased it from there. He tapped around, I think, just after the arena section, went off hard, and too much damage, called it a day. And you can also see Dane Warren, who started near the front, had a horrible drop of the clutch, and was just a bog off the start. So everyone swamped by him, and yeah, that leaves him, as we said, place at this point. Still that gap from the front 5 back, which was a kind of a concertina of that first incident. But you mentioned breaking the draft. That's certainly one thing toward Dottinger Heuer, but right now you can actually, because of the training effect and the fact that if I'm certainly Diogo Pinto, who's got clear vision, and you start to really build momentum, you can catch those guys pretty quick in this track.
Yeah, if you've got sight of those corners, we heard about from the drivers at Montreal, didn't we?
Yeah.
How they were saying it's better to actually have a little bit of a gap there to be able to get your markers and get your apexes.
Yeah, one of the tricks that you can do in that situation, certainly in sim as well, where it's kind of hard to read peripherals at times. VR is obviously doing that better as it develops, but you can lift a little bit more going into a corner per se that's a high-speed corner, and then get back on the throttle being accurate a little bit earlier and use the draft to your advantage in that way. So you do have to lose margins. You do have to change your driving style in those situations. Montreal's lethal, especially the last chicane, because of the speed and how accurate you have to be through there. But Nürburgring's not quite that extent of speed, but it's just how punishing a small wheel off can be here.
As we look at there, Jamie Fluke, he's currently finding himself in 9th place, running through in this queue of traffic behind Diogo Pinto, Tommy Erskard, Matt Backham in front of him, and behind him Thomas Tettler and Zach Campbell. Zach Campbell's got a real run up the hill in towards Bravery. Carries so much speed there. Careful of the egg there, because yeah, there's a little bit of sort of concrete on the outside, but get too far wide, you end up in the barrier, and it just catches you out so easily through Bravery Corner. Right now, Fluke holding on to his place at the moment in 9th.
Yeah, it is a corner that is a commitment corner, no question about it. You always think you can do it a little bit faster than you can too, which is why it gets the name. But carousel for the first time, cars will be clapping as back end scrapes along each separation in the concrete. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm a fan of it. I think it's kind of a cool characteristic. And then it's into what I think is the best flowing section of the track. The last sector is just brilliant, and you just such a great feel to it, such good rhythm. Bit of curb you can use, but yeah, just attack mode from here on, Connery.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe at the very front of this field, but they're seemingly a little bit different in mid-pack, though. We heard Zach Campbell on the radio just saying that he's very comfortable sitting in that 11th place right now, for example. And I think that's a feeling that's echoed up and down the grid at the moment, at least for those mid-pack and back, because they do not want to basically bin it here on the first lap. So they're playing things rather conservatively down through the order just to get this lap under their belt and then maybe go flying a little bit later on. But things remain to be rather close at the very front, I gotta say.
Yes, thank you very much, Connery. Yeah, that's great thoughts from here. Here's another place where you're going to see the cars taking off. You hit the brakes before that jump, let go of the brakes over the jump, and then hit the brakes again.
It depends on the car, and I would love to see telemetry, because in some you lift before the jump and then brake as soon as you get the compression, and I would be questioning some might be brave enough to try and go for that. Generally speaking, you're right, and I would recommend braking before. I definitely brake before, but there are some people, certain cars, that you can actually lift, roll the jump, and then brake with the compression to load the tire a bit. So there's a few tactics there that can work, absolutely, but it's a very cool part of the track. Very scary the first time you go through, no question. And then now we get ready for the draft. This is the battle.
Yeah, through the Kleiner carousel, then into Galkops for the first time here, and Sebastian Job has been able to keep himself in the slipstream here, down the Dottinger Hut for the first time. You're going to see people maybe lifting off the throttles, and Josh Rogers trying to break the draft here down the Dottinger Hut, heading towards
This is cheeky.
Well, it is and it isn't. It's expected.
It's not the weaving. It's that Sebastian could draft this right now if he wanted to, and I don't know that he wants to. Watch this. Here's the tell.
Well,
How flat? All right, he's got the position. I thought he might just follow the weave and lift a little bit, maybe just let the car stay where it was, because again, we talked about that power of the draft. I don't know that you want to be leading. I guess the other side of it is obviously we talked about sight lines. Now, if he thinks he has any pace at all, maybe he pulls a gap with clear vision on the Nordschleife.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. They come across the line for the first time then. And it is Sebastian Job who leads this one, as predicted by my co-commentator Matt Trivet. But Josh Rogers to the inside. He's wanted that position back, and he's going to take it into the first chicane. And that's what can happen around here. Yes, you can get the move done down the Dottinger Hut, but if you're not able to get enough of a gap, that start and finish straight, it is quite a long straight still. You can get the slipstream.
I think it is interesting, and I think Seb's completely fine with that. Again, it goes both ways in sight lines, but remember, I said this in the All-Star race as well. You don't get that second straightaway to get past Dunning unless you have a brilliant Tiergarten and you come out of it absolutely scorching on the rear bumper of the car in front of you. You're not going to get enough to make that move into turn one, so you actually want to be potentially second place until the last lap, get the pass done Dottinger Heuer, and there's no time to respond to it.
It's those drivers behind, because you're in that queue of traffic, and because Mitchell de Jong is fighting for Sebastian Job for position in the championship, and because Dane Warren is keen to make amends. Actually, Dane's up to fourth place through all of that as well, Luke fifth, and actually Diogo Pinto was able to drag on up to the back of this pack, so we've got a 6-car pack for the lead here. We've lost 2 cars, as you saw. Kevin Ellis Jr. Ellis Jr. is out of, he's out from that earliest on, and Johan Hart as well is out of this race. But let's give you a little bit of the sights and sounds as we give you the sounds of the ring here on iRacing. go. There was some of the sights and sounds of the Nürburgring Nordschleife here on iRacing and Porsche's media channels for round number 8 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. Paul Smith and Matt Trivett on commentary here, and well, battle for the lead, it's still pretty close together. 6 cars in a line here at the moment, Matt, and well, from what we think, Sebastian Job will just sit behind this time.
It's possible. We'll have to see how they play it out. I think he wanted to last time, and he wasn't really given the chance to draft and then gave it back right away. But what incredible pictures. I mean, that drop into the carousel as the left wheel lifts off and you snap into the camber. It's just such a fantastic looking, and definitely one of the things to take away as well is Charlie Collins. He really wanted to go for the move at Adnel Foss because he knows he's stuck in a queue where he shouldn't be. He's got more pace than that, but was caught out early in the race, as many of you will remember. So definitely trying to make moves where he can, but getting frustrated, I think, in this train.
Well, one man will be frustrated is the man who's joining Conor Maddock. Take it away, Conor.
I'm here with Kevin Ellis Jr. Unfortunately out early here in the sprint race at the Nürburgring for this round of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. Kevin, an unfortunate one, especially considering your position in the championship right now. You're 4th coming into this. You're seeing Charlie Collins out there. Also not having a greatest of time, so maybe it's a little bit of respite for you. But yeah, this might feel like one that got away for you. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little consolation, really. It's really hard to stay diplomatic when you've been run off the road 2 weeks in a row through no fault of your own. I wish I could say I was surprised, but I'm not. It's just I don't really know what I need to do any different, to be honest. I mean, obviously qualifying for the grid would be ideal, but that's still swings and roundabouts. Really, you should be able to race side by side, but everyone just jams it into turn 1 as if there's a load of space. Just not with this complex, and I just had nowhere to go. Unfortunately, a teammate got tipped round in front of me. I think he made a bit of contact with someone in front, and I got a little bit into him. And then as I tried to move left, Thomas was already there and just ripped the left front clean off my car. So I had no steering. So yeah, as I say, 2 weeks in a row, it's just really disappointing, really.
Yeah, as we're currently, while we're having this interview, seeing this fantastic battle going on at the very front of the field. But what's your plan now coming into the main race, considering you'll be starting quite deep in the pack?
If I could just not get crashed into it, it'd be a win. I don't really care where I finish at this point. It's going to be a big, long train of cars with this package. You can be 3 seconds a lap off pace and still keep up. So, we'll just drive and hope for the best, really. Hopefully not get shunted again. We'll take what we can get. But, just a shame, really, that the season's been started off so good and now it's ended like this. It's a bit frustrating, so we'll make the most of this and then we'll just look forward to Le Mans, and hopefully the season will be done sooner than later.
Well, I hope you're able to pick up a couple of positions in the main race to try and stem the bleeding somewhat in terms of the point situation, and best of luck in the final couple of rounds of the championship as well, Kevin.
Yeah, cheers guys, we'll try and put a show on coming from 27th.
Right, thank you very much. And Paul, we saw some absolutely fantastic battling on the main camera there between the front couple of drivers. Again, another little swap around between Rogers and Job. One coming down the Dottinger, and then one coming down in towards turn number 1. These guys are really going tooth and nail.
Yeah, this is going down to the end here of this race. Looking at that little quartet further back here, Matt Backham 7th ahead of Tommy Erskard and 8th, Jamie Flew. Thomas Tetela ended out the top 10 there. So this 4 here also, Matt, giving some good battling, but it's that lead group. I mean, Sebastian Job, he's shown what he wants to do each lap now. All he needs to do is repeat that this final lap here.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I say, when you get to move down on Dottinger, you can hold it. You don't have to worry about the GP straight away, because unless you get a really poor Tiergarten, it's pretty easy to just get the run to the line. You might get some great door-to-door action to it, but Seb's doing exactly what he needs to do. That said, so is Josh Rogers. You nailed it. I mean, it's such a great championship run so far this season. He's looking really good. We're going to look back at our Vodafone replay, the onboard. This is exactly what... Wow, that's Kesselschön. That's the run uphill straightaway into Bravery Corner, and they're 2x2, and yeah, that was always going to happen, unfortunately. Bit of a hip check. And I think Charlie's just having one of those races now.
Well, it was Castrolado and Thompson who were involved in that. Both of those drivers have found themselves onto pit road, so coming out of that one worse off. We've got 5 drivers on pit road. On the 23, actually still running in this one, although Max Beneke, who is at the back of that pack, at the back of the grid, he's got massive damage, I noticed earlier on in that race. Obviously got caught up in that shenanigans that happened at turns 1 and 2. But as they go through this fast left-hander at Schadenkrautz, once again onto the brakes into Arenberg, and while Sebastian Job, you can see the pressure that he's putting Josh Rogers under, and this is what you've got to do, because if you don't get the move done on Dottinger Heuer, you can get it done earlier by forcing a mistake from the driver in front.
One of the most technical sections right here. Into that massive compression. Got to get the braking done, keep the car under control, and snap it left. See a lot of YouTube incidents there for that exact reason. That compression is brutal. It's one of the most untalked about aspects of the circuit. And again, elevation's hard to replicate in sim. The compressions around this place are massive. It's such a huge downhill run. This part of the track really flows kind of nicely, but you can get it pretty wrong. You need to be pretty smooth sailing through this left-hander, brake early, get set up down into... here I go again, forgetting the name.
Metzgerveld?
Kellenhard. It's Kellenhard.
Kellenhard,
Here we go. Yeah, so Kellenhard here, and this is another one you want to turn in late and get nice and straight off of. But the next place we'll see again, Bergvik is the next big indication of what Seb's intentions are. I mean, I try and stay close, and then into the final sector, which kind of like Bathurst, is a lot of downhill attacking the front wheels of the car.
Yeah, but I have to say, my favourite part of this track is the Bell Fest towards the end of the lap before. It's a real roller coaster, and that's a way that a lot of people describe this track. It is a roller coaster, and you're just hanging on for dear life through parts of it. You're going through blind turns, over crests. It's almost like a rally track, is this? It's that demanding on the cars, but through the right-hander out of Exmuller, and then up towards the Lauda links. Where Lauda had his huge accident that nearly cost him his life back in 1976. Onto the brakes then for Bergberg. It's that run out of Bergberg now. We'll see how we get on here.
Yeah, super steep uphill. Mitchie's actually going to put Seb under a bit of pressure as well. Draft certainly will matter. Difficult as well, top of the gear. Sometimes fifth going to hold you a little bit longer, but the draft for Seb, another driver that was in this race, no longer. Connery's standing by right now to get us more insights as to the action.
Yeah, I'm standing by with Brian Lockwood just very, very quickly. Brian, unfortunate race for you. You were able to avoid all the shenanigans that was going on in the first lap, but unfortunately a solo car incident in the second lap has put you out of the event. How you feel?
Yeah, you never want to see a mistake like that, so not great. The goal of this race was just to do what I could. This isn't a strong track for me. I didn't get as much prep as I would have liked. So the goal is certainly just to survive, and I was on my way to doing that until, of course, the mistake. But I'm working on learning from it, exploring what lines were not sufficient, where I can improve, and looking to have a better run in the future.
Yeah, we're definitely hoping for that. Do you have any overall strategy for race number 2, or is it just going to be trying to pick your way through people having incidents?
Yeah, certainly just don't get in any trouble. There's, I think, not so much to gain and a lot to lose by being really aggressive here. So strategy is just going to be there when the opportunity presents itself, and hopefully we'll make it pretty far.
All right, thank you very much. Best of luck in the second race. Hopefully it's a bit better than your first race, and there's no problems for you. But Paul, again, another driver that had a unfortunate situation, not with another driver, but with the circuit itself, maybe dipping 2 tires into the grass a little bit too much, and finding out, unfortunately, how that makes your car behave, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not nice when you get it wrong here. It bites back, does this circuit. But now these drivers at the front of your field: Josh Rogers, Sebastian Job, Mitchell de Jong, Dane Warren, Jeremy Bootloop, and Diogo Pinto, all top 6 here in a line. Although Bootloop and Pinto falling back. Here's the bell office. Here's just a real roller coaster through. Using the curbs with Sebastian Job. That's a little bit brave through there. Throw into the right-hander here. You can carry more speed than you expect through that right-hander. Then the left, and then the Kleiner carousel. And if you're not careful on those curbs, you can end up acting like a toboggan and just going for a ride. Sebastian Job is just a little bit further back, but that can sometimes be ideal for you onto the dotting Heuer.
Yeah, he's still close enough to get the draft, so no catch Rogers. Good run through the final corner, but it also means Mitch is on him, which means I think Mitchell de Jong might be in a perfect position here because Sebastian, if he doesn't catch Josh fast enough, Mitch is going to be all over it. This is going to be tight. They're going to get to the gantry, or the bridge, excuse me, and he's not going to have the move done. I think Josh might have done just enough. I think Seb lost just a little too much in the final section.
Well, he's gaining fast, but so too is Mitchell de Jong getting the double draft. Josh Rogers goes defensive, going 3 wide underneath the Bilstein Bridge, are we? This is sensational. Sebastian Job to the head of the field. Mitchell de Jong second, but he's keeping a nose there. They're ever so close as they're headed into Tiergarten for the final time in this sprint race. And my goodness, what bravery and brilliant display from the drivers. Look what that means to Sebastian Job. He's delighted with that. It's a win in the sprint race here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. And Mitchell de Jong, second place. Wow, what a finish.
That was strategic. I mean, I think that relief says it all. I think that gap, now that I see it, was intentional. I think he knew if he could get enough of a run, and it happened late. I said the bridge was the cutoff point for where the move needed to be finished, and I think Seb knew he was still in the draft. It would keep him just fast enough to stay out of Mitch's line of fire, and he timed that to perfection. That could have been very costly if he was even just a half car length further back. And if he's too soon, he goes early, Mitch goes with him, and then Mitch makes the move by the bridge. So that was a very, very smart move by Seb to leave the gap that he did.
Well, here we go then. Here is your results of that sprint race in round number 8 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. And it was Sebastian Job who won the race here. But first, actually, we're going to get a look at this on the Vodafone replay once again. And look at that. Job was on the grass on the exit. And, well, got the run. And he's following that draft like it's his life depends on it. And it's going 3 wide here, Matt. This is great driving from all 3 drivers.
Yeah, I mean, this is perfect. Like I say, bridge is the cutoff, especially if they're going to go 3 wide. Seb has to make a decision, decides for the inside. That is narrow margin, especially when you consider it's teammates beside him, and Mitch is trying not to lose any momentum. Josh is just a sitting duck in that situation. Now, the good news, like you say, is Josh just needs good points. 3rd place is still fantastic, but that moment, Mitch was very wise to get out of the throttle when he did, and that's good racing between the two of them. Absolutely had to, no question, but some people might get stubborn there, and he conceded where he had to. Seb gets away with it. Brilliant drive.
That was sensational. Brilliant finish to the race there across the line. So it is Sebastian Job who won that race by 0.29 of a second then in the end, ahead of the American Mitchell de Jong. There you go, there's your results, with Joshua Rogers having been on pole position and leading all the way through, finishing in 3rd. Dane Warren and Jeremy Boudreau 4th and 5th, with Diogo Pinto in 6th. Matt Backup, Tommy Erstgaard, Jamie Flug and Daniel Lafuente round out your top 10. Zach Campbell, Jeff Chiassi, David Williams, Martin Cronke, Graham Carroll, not a great result for him in 15th. Moreno Sarica, Charlie Collins will be gutted about that, getting caught up in the incident at the start. Salva Talons, Jack Sedgwick and Maxim Ramstein rounding out the top 20. And then the last 2 finishers were Pekka Toivonen and Max Benecke. Everyone else did not finish that race there. That was absolutely sensational. And look at that cut-off line for the championship. It is rising further and further up the standings. So Sebastian Job, after all of that, has gained 1 point after qualifying in the first race.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just incredible the lead that Josh Rogers has, but now it's down to 8. 220 is the last remaining statistical mathematic number to be achieved if you had a perfect rest of the season. So it's anyone outside of that. Graham Carroll, the first of which at 224 down, can't make it anymore, but that's a massive lead. Can't win the championship today, Josh Rogers, because obviously it's 85 points maximum for each respective weekend, and we've got 2 of those to go, so that gap's a little larger, but he can definitely put him in a position to win this on round 9.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have another look then down. And this is from Dane Warren, who had the perfect seat here to see what was happening in front. The Australian then, following the wheel tracks of Josh Rogers, Sebastian Job and Mitchell de Jong as they weave their way down the Dottinger Heuer. And then 3 wide, Sebastian Job making that decision late to go left, He was left the car's width, and that's exactly what he needed to get himself to the front of the field. Absolutely sensational. Dane Warren was backing out of it. He knew that he would have a massive accident if he got involved in that top 3. So yeah, great stuff from that top 3. And again, Matt, this is what we've come to expect week on week from this championship.
Yeah, ridiculously great racing. And Sebastian, you had to think that one through because obviously the draft was going to be important. First lap, you did go for the move. He gets you back on the GP straight. How did you approach that? Because the gap was just about perfect at the end.
Yeah, I'm still shaking a bit, to be honest. That was yeah, I think this was my favourite win. The strategy was to pass Josh every time on the big straight and hope he passed me back because Coanda here were just unbelievably fast. I could barely keep up. Those were 3 of the best laps I've done in my life. So yeah, I knew that the slipstream was powerful, so if I could be in second on the last lap, that would be ideal. So the first 2 laps I passed Josh and hoped that he would repass me, which he did. And the reason I passed him in the first place was because if I lifted and stayed behind, Mitchell would have got me and then I'd be in third. And I didn't want to be in third, although it kind of worked for Mitchell. So yeah, I wanted to be in second. I was kind of trying to solidify that and then backing off a little bit by the end just to make sure I didn't pass him too early on the final straight. Unfortunately, Mitchell was gaining quite heavily, so I had to keep that in mind. I saw they were trying to block me in, so I had to move left at the last second. But luckily, there's enough room for 3 cars, so you can't really block someone in if they see it coming. And yeah, just about managed it. But yeah, it was quite a race. I was very, very tough.
So, well, I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there from Sebastian. That was the race 1 winner. But let's head on over to a quick break because right next will be the feature race of round number 8 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. If you're just joining us, you have missed an absolutely thrilling sprint race. But well, what have we got for you? We've got a feature race here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. Paul Smith, Matt Trivett and Connery Maddock here. And well, Connery, will come to you first. Dramatic end and real bravery and guts from Sebastian Job to get the win.
Look, he knew exactly the situation he was being put in by both Joshua Rogers and Mitchell de Jong at the end there. He knew exactly what was up and he had to make the preemptive move to go for it to prevent himself from getting boxed in and getting into a situation where he couldn't go and win this race here today. And I gotta say, that emotion from him on the cameras at the very end there, that's something we very rarely see from Sebastian Job when it comes to winning a race. He won a whole championship just a couple of weeks ago in the Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain League, and he was just kind of stony-faced coming across the line, so you can see how much that meant to him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say people have been trying to shut me up for years, and someone finally found the button in that interview. But it was interesting to hear Seb's perspective on that, because that's a 270-kilometer-an-hour, half-second realization and decision. And obviously that just goes to show the forethought that goes into racing. It's not like he went, oh, go left now. He went, hang on, they're boxing me in. I see him moving over slowly. Mitch is going to try and pull out, get the draft on me and slingshot, and then hold me to the left. And then Josh would then go further and pull him along. And he went, I'm not going to let that happen. And to have that forethought is just why these guys are so good. It's not just the speed, it's the racecraft. And Seb did a brilliant job. Again, he left the gap so that he couldn't get passed back. It was all very thought out. And those aren't decisions, like you said. The plan was to pass him every lap, but Mitch put more pressure on him. You have to be able to come up with a plan B and a plan C. And we hear it all the time on team radio. We're switching to this, we're doing this. And they're always prepared.
And it shows, Connery, that the finite margins that are here in this championship, I keep on saying it week after week, just how millimetre close these drivers have to be to race each other out there.
Well, if you look at any top split in any official iRacing race ever, and one of these guys are in it, any of these 40 drivers, they're the ones coming first and seconds. So that's the level of this field. It's absolutely brilliant to see. I hope we get to see more here in this main race, but we've got the grid coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Connery, we'll be hearing plenty from you in this feature race. But we're getting ready, as you say, for the grid here of this race. The top 8 are inverted here. So that will mean that the man who finished in 8th place in that first race, Tommy Erstgaard, will be on pole position. Second place, joining him on the front row is Matt Backham, Diogo Pinto and Jeremy Bootloop there, ran out row number 2. Dane Warren and Josh Rogers, the man who finished in 3rd, finds himself on the 3rd row. Mitchell de Jong, Sebastian Job ran out row 4 with Fluke and La Fuente, Campbell and Gyasi on row 6. Rest of your field will be coming up on screen. Graham Carroll will be hoping for a better result. Charlie Collins, watch out for him. He'll be on a charge through this field here in this race. We'll go through the rest of your grid as well. Max Bernecker got caught up in that opening incident, and he's going to have to find his way through as well. And one of the drivers that will be fighting hard will be Kevin Ellis Jr. and Johan Hart. They'll be pushing hard with Alejandro Sanchez at the back of the field. Drivers getting themselves prepared and set for the start of this one. And Matt, they've got a little bit longer to do in this one. They can just relax a little bit and not push quite as hard this time. In fact, we're going to go to the start of this one because the revs are rising. Away they go for the feature race here. 4 laps of the Nürburgring. Slow start further back means that they're going 4 wide, heading in towards turn number 1. It is to be Tommy Erstgaard to the front. Sebastian Job's trying to make some moves early on here. Cold tyres, cold brakes. These drivers walking a fine line here with adhesion. And moving forward is Job into 6th place, up 2 positions already. But it's Erstgaard, Backham, Bootloop, Pinto's alongside Bootloop there all the way through this first half of the lap.
Switch that around. I would say Pinto's the one that's actually getting overtaken on that. He had a very slow drop of the clutch. I'm not sure if he dragged it or was just a bad reaction, but it's kind of left him. He's done well to hold the position, but it's put him on the outside for a lot of this battle. And like you say, he's kind of now getting boxed out and having to just hold on. And the problem is for guys like Joshua Rogers and Sebastian Job, they're right behind this, and they're desperate to get through and get away from each other. Josh wants to try and get a gap, no doubt at this point.
Well, we've seen how hard Diogo Pinto races in this championship. As Graham Carroll famously saying, he had to sort of think twice about defending from him. He's a hard charger, but he has put in some absolutely blinding performances in his debut season here. But Joshua Rogers getting the run out the right hand, heading towards the Vidal chicane, and he's going to compromise the line of Pinto into the chicane. That can work out for him if he's careful. You can run around the outside if you're brave, but they're deciding against it. They're holding the line in through the left-hander onto the Nordschleife for the first time. No accident or shenanigans out there, so all the drivers are still running in this race, which is good to see.
Yeah, very good so far. Much more orderly off the start this time, and settling into single file by the time we hit the North Loop, the Nordschleife, as we head into Hatzenbach for the first time. Great section. Nice little tinkle heartbreaking point for the first left. A lot of people can lose it there, and then smash the curb for the second right apex. Nice and smooth, but inside curb taken there. Not really necessary. In fact, I wouldn't really recommend it, but now the run down to Flugplatz. Used to be actually a runway, because they would use the little lip, the takeoff section where we saw the jump actually is where the planes would use to help get them airborne back in the day.
Well, these cars get themselves airborne, as you can see right here. They fly over the hill there. Absolutely tremendous to see those cars at speed. And it's a fast right-hander that sends you through this section. You can use slipstream, you can get up alongside drivers. There's another little lip as they head towards Schadenkrautz there that can also cause your car to take off as well. Going back, there's a car in the background on the grass heading in towards Arnberg. Is that Charlie Collins?
That's Schwedentreu. I would not want to be out there. I'm not sure. We'll have to get a replay of what happened, but losing it there, he's lucky not to spear through the grass and either smoke the wall or collect someone else at the breaking point for Arnberg. So that's, I would say, probably about the, crushed coal into a diamond with your sphincter at that point. You're going to be clenching so hard.
Yeah, it's a change of underpants needed, that's for sure. But everybody's still surviving this one, which is tremendous to see. And, out of Adenauer Forest once again, heading in towards the first half of the lap. Still got quite a ways before they reach the halfway point of the lap. This is such a long lap here. It's tremendous racing. It's such a challenge for these drivers. They love this challenge, don't they? There'll be drivers saying, oh no, I don't like this, but secretly they love a challenge like this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, there's nothing better than, from a personal satisfaction point of view, a good driver's track. There's great racetracks, but having a good race is what they depend on. But when you get a great race on a good driver's track, oh, it's bliss. It's absolute bliss. And this is great. This train, I would be loving this. This is just pure adrenaline. You're driving on a lot of instinct in this train. Again, hitting your marks is important, but you're really feeling it out and thinking ahead so much every single corner, and it's just awesome. This is the epitome of it.
Yeah, out of Exmüller then as they're heading through towards the Lauda Links for the first time in this race. Still the same order at the front there, that you will expect to see that it'll be the run out of Bergwerk then, and up the hill. I say up the hill, it's almost a mountain with how much elevation you gain here, up here towards the left-hander at Curve or Bravery Corner. That's where you get the best slipstream. When you're in a queue of cars like this and you're all getting slipstream, it's really the car at the front of the field that struggles and finds out just how effective that slipstream is for the rest of the field here.
Yeah, it's absolutely true, and that's why we touched on the draft battle, and Seb touched on it as well. The other side of it is obviously on Nordschleife, you're the one that has the benefit of things. One is it's difficult to be overtaken, and you've got the sightless, so you can relax a little bit in the lead, but oh god, as soon as you hit those straights, Kesselschön, and more importantly, Döttinger Heuer, yeah, it's a desperate place to be in. You're sitting stuck at the front of the field. Man, that's had a pretty good day so far. A couple of decent results. Sitting 11th right now. I see a lot of fans in the chat. Giassi has been doing quite well, so he's obviously got a number of fans because each week I see them there trumpeting his name, and he's on a good weekend overall if he can keep this result going.
Yeah, some good solid points for the Brazilian. Of course, raced Porsches in real life as well, and he is a very talented driver out there. He's gained one position this race. One driver has gained multiple positions. Josh Thompson down in 19th. He's gained 6 positions in the opening of this race. So he's taken advantage of a few issues out there on track for others, and that means that he's been able to gain where others haven't. Johan Hart, I'm seeing on my timing screen, has stopped, and he's already left the race session, so he's had an incident and his day is done, and there's been no points for him here today. That's not what he needed coming into this round in 20th place in the championship.
Yeah, that's very disappointing. Again, 20th place, that's the cutoff. He needs to start thinking about points. He loves to be consistent in that. He needs to be consistent in that situation. Beautiful run down to Fanskretten. This is the other jump section.
Look at the cars launching into the air, and the nose dipping down into the ground. Sensational shot there. Brilliant camera work here.
Does that not look like some sort of acrobatic gymnastics, synchronized swimming? Is that Sebastian? His engine's gone. I'm willing to bet when he landed, he uses the downshift. I'm willing to bet he didn't brake before the jump. He tried to roll over it, brake on the compression, and the downshift would have done it. Rare to see an iRacing an engine go, but he's done.
Well, I mean, if you happen to accidentally change down 2 gears, you're over that rev limiter, and that's your engine gone. And that's what's happened for the man who was second place in the championship, the man who won the sprint race here in today's event. He is out of this race. No points in this feature race for Sebastian Job. That's huge implications for the championship here. This is absolute sensation here from the Nürburgring. Matt Backham and Jeremy Booth are looking to switch positions.
We're hearing it was downshift over the jump, and that's the only thing that makes sense. So here's a look on from behind. Watch when he lands. Again, watch the brake lights, because you're going to see right now Dane Warren's... Okay, so he does actually brake beforehand, but when he lands in the compression, he plucks another gear, and it was just too much, just too high in the revs, and out goes the oil from the back end. Now, thankfully, in iRacing, it doesn't piss oil all over the track, because trust me, that at that speed and that compression, we would have had 40 cars into the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. That would have been a lot of liquids and fluids on the track there. Oil, water, everything you can imagine would be dumped from there. Tommy Erskard has led the first lap of the race ahead of Jeremy Boutaloop. Diogo Pinto in 3rd place now, because he's been able to get ahead of Matt Backham, and another driver getting ahead of Matt Backham. Well, it's the championship leader, Josh Rogers. He is doing all that he needs to do here compared to his championship rivals, because Mitchell de Jong, now the next driver who was challenging in the championship, he's in 7th place at the moment, just ahead of the battling Daniel Lafuente and Jamie Flew. So these drivers switching positions on the 3 laps to go. Yeah, there's plenty of time here for Josh to keep moving forward.
Yeah, this is massive. This is a huge implication. Again, we already said that Josh has an incredibly impressive lead right now, but now Sebastian's going to be struggling to hold 2nd place in this championship by the end of it. Money shift, I see Emery calling it in chat. That's absolutely true. Just over revs it, down it goes, and it gets expensive when you blow an engine in the real world. That's why they call it that. So just an unfortunate situation for him, but what a battle up front even still. Look at this train this time. There's no brake pack. Everyone's in this the whole way back.
Yeah, 1st to 22nd then in this queue of traffic, and Tommy Erskard doing a sensational job at the front of your field ahead of Jeremy Boutaloop in 2nd place. Diogo Pinto 3rd, going a little bit defensive on Josh Rogers, but let's see them through the Vidal chicane once again. And let's give you a few more sights and sounds of the ring here on iRacing. here. Only 0.3 of a second ahead of Diogo Pinto, who actually made that move into Schradenkraut at the start of the lap. So he's up to second place with Jeremy Butlu and Josh Rogers in third and fourth places. This queue of cars now all the way down to 21st, where Kevin Ellis Jr., Kevin Ellis Jr. is currently standing. But Matt, seeing these drivers absolutely on the limit, there was a sharp intake of breath from you from when we're on board with Jack Sedgwick.
Yeah, well, there's a couple different behaviors between the cars right now. And Sedgwick's just got a little bit of an understeery car, and he's trying to extract so much speed through bravery. He's a little bit wide of the apex. That put him high in the curb. And I love it. Speaking of high in the curb, what a shot. But how many times are these guys holding their breath around here is the other thing to notice on those onboards. How many hold your breath moments, the commitment we saw from Thomas Tetela into the carousel. I mean, it's just such a great track. It takes so much to get it right. And you can see how hard these guys are having to focus and be perfect around here. And man, oh man, I gotta say, Thiago Pinto, race of the season for him so far. He's gonna be under a little bit of threat here heading out onto the Duttinger Heuer because a bit of a gap in front, but either way, he is on a great run, mate.
Certainly is, and the Portuguese driver certainly doing a good display for himself, for his country, as they head on through the right-hander of Calvin Kopp. And the Dottinger Heuer once again. Tjørsgaard, Norwegian, at the front of your field, feeling the need to duck left and right. You can see that queue of cars snaking down the Dottinger Heuer here. Certainly showing the effect, and look behind that second place driver. Pinto can't follow too much now because there's Jeremy Bootloop and there goes Josh Rogers to make it 3 wide, and Josh Rogers could end up in the lead here.
I think he does. He did the same thing that Sebastian Job did. He gets the inside, the two guys on the out, the other RS cars trying desperately to hold position, but wide won't work. Oh my goodness, Thiago Pinto. That is commitment. It may not seem like much going around the outside heading into Tiergarten, but the bumps through there, I can hardly get the thing to stop when there's no one around me. And he manages to hold the outside, gets on the biggest compression bump, which is left just before the second apex, and he still holds position in second. I mean, yes, Josh Rogers gets by, but Thiago did a brilliant job there.
Yeah, I've thrown my car many a time into the wall from that compression on that left-hander where that service road comes in before Tiergarten, and yeah, that takes some I think he has to walk around with a wheelbarrow, is the phrase, as they head on through the Yokohama S here and getting themselves down towards the Dunlop hairpin. Great to see them using the 24-hour layout here, using all the way down the hill into the hairpin. But we're going to have a look then at that move down the Dottinger again here, Matt, because this is tremendous.
Yeah, so Josh, at this point, 4th position, but such the power of the draft. And you can see the VRS guys up in front. Watch what happens, because this is almost what they did to Sebastian, where they wanted to try and box Sebastian in at the end of the first race. They both go to the right. Now, Thiago has to make a decision. He says, I'm not going to play that game. Tries to stay to the inside. He's boxed out. It's exactly what they wanted to do to Sebastian in the first race, but instead this time, Josh Rogers sees the gap, gets the slingshot, job done. And then it's this from Thiago to hold on to it right now, because Josh in front, he just says, I'm going to commit, and that is ridiculous. Look at all the cars there just trying to find their own place in the order, because you've got to be single file by here. And it was 4 wide at the front, it was 3 wide behind that.
Yeah, this is tremendous stuff. I could just sit here and just watch this. I mean, yeah, I've got to talk about it, but I would love to be. I mean, you're all enjoying this because this is brilliant.
I'll be honest, Paul. When we saw the shot in Flensgaten, I was thinking like Murray Walker, I have to stop because I've got a lump, but it wasn't in my throat. I mean, this is just a brilliant track, if you know what I mean.
Well, Moreno Sarica is not thinking it's a brilliant track. He's pulling his car over to the side of the road, and he is out of this one. I think also out there's been there's been issues for Kevin Ellis Jr. and also for Charlie Collins. Oh my goodness, Ellis, we spoke to him in that first race. He was wanting to just move his way forward, and he's ended an instant, and he's out. He's having to pull it over. That's it.
That's unbelievable. That's the 2 guys that had drama at the start of the first race, both battling back through the field, both knowing that they want to stay out of the drama. Man, I love these pictures. Nothing better than a Porsche 4 wheels off the ground, right? That's the flex right there. When you get old and you're a grandkid, you got a picture of you in a Porsche with 4 wheels off the ground, you're a hero. But those are the two guys that knew that they had to stay out of the dramas, and they both find themselves in it collectively. It's just a bad day at the office for both of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just not working out for them at all. This track can be an element of survival to it, and we're seeing that right here today. I can see that David Williams on my timing screen has had issues out there as well. So drama happening out there. We've lost a number of cars here. We've got 6 cars on pit road at the moment. So they're not having fun times out there. So we've got 22 cars still running here in this race. Collins is still running, but Ellis Jr. is not in that one. So we'll get to look at that one a little bit later on here. But right here at the front it is Rogers, Pinto, Osgaard and Bootloo. And well, let's take a look at what happened then between Ellis Jr. and Charlie Collins. So this is Collins. He's involved. There's the incident with Marina Sarika. So Sarika gets damage. That's where Sarika got that damage. There goes Beneke down the inside. Kevin Ellis Jr. now getting involved in this one side by side. You've got to have the respect between the two of them. Ellis Jr. gets a wiggle on there, and they just win together.
And was that Alejandro Sanchez that was involved in that in the back end as well at the first incident?
No,
because
he
someone
didn't
got
even take the
speared.
start.
Yeah, no, it was his teammate then that went absolutely flying off the back of Kevin Ellis Jr.'s car when he rejoined the chicane. So there was more drama in that than even we collected data for. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, this is very much becoming a survival
Yeah,
of the
Silva
fittest.
Talons would have been the one that would have gone off there.
Well, it is now the top 12, top 13 in a line, and Josh Rogers is trying to pull away from Diogo Pinto, but Pinto keeping that slipstream into Bergwerk once again, and this is where you'll see him slowly gain onto the back of Joshua Rogers' car. Going up this hill here, you sometimes have to hold 5th gear for a little bit longer than you would imagine, don't you?
Well, yes. The problem is you think you're 6th, but because it's uphill, you're fighting against obviously an aero wall at that speed and gravity. You just don't get any more revs. The car, it's like being in an overdrive gear. It just won't pull. So 5th is where you want to be, and it's even trickier in the draft because you might want to grab 6th for a second, but then go back to 5th and try and trick it. You're going back and forth in the gears even with the sequential. But this is going to be a tough battle to the end of this. 2 laps to go. Remember, 1 more in this feature race, and it's not that. Diego's aggressive. He's a rookie. You think he wants this win, Connery?
Definitely. But before we get to that, unfortunately, we have to do something that I don't like doing, which is talk to a driver that has gone out of the race. And in this instance, it's one of your chat contenders, Sebastian. Just take me through it, because we saw what we saw in the pictures with you going over the jump and the engine giving out. But what was it like from your perspective?
Yeah, rotten luck, really. I had this once in practice, but I assumed it was due to a harsh landing, so I was intentionally braking before the jump every single lap. I did it on that lap as well. I softened the landing as much as I could, but something causes the engine to blow up, and I have no idea what. I don't think it's the downshift because this car has shift protection, so that shouldn't really be possible as far as I know. Obviously, I'm not an engineer, but yeah, I don't know what caused it. I've had it before. I didn't know what caused it then, but I only had it once, and then I made an adjustment, and it never happened again. And then suddenly it happens in the race. So yeah, I don't really know what else I could have done. I was trying to avoid that happening, but yeah, it still happened.
Yeah, it is super unfortunate, especially going from the high highs of you know, pumping your fist coming across the line to win the sprint race, to then to have that happen in the main race here. We'll get a replay up of it in just a couple of seconds, but you know, where does this put your season now? Because of course, you know, you were quite far behind Josh coming into this already, but now it seems like it's an unsurmountable mountain.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the championship was over for a few rounds now. I've just been aiming for 2nd. Might have to aim for 3rd or 4th now, because as far, well, I've not checked, but Mitchell was probably still in the top 10, I'm guessing, and he finished right behind me in race 1. So yeah, not good. I feel like this has been a really bad year of luck for me, or a few months, I should say, since the season started. Even though I feel like I've personally driven better than I did last year, I always feel like I'm improving, and this season wasn't an exception. So yeah, I just feel like the luck unfortunately hasn't been there. So I just gotta get on with it and try and do the best I can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, despite the situation, we wish you the best of luck in your remaining races, and hopefully you can come back stronger next season.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Well, there we go, Paul. And, well, the battle at the very front is continuing to heat up, isn't it?
Yeah, they were getting very close between Tommy Erstgaard and Diogo Pinto as they're going to be starting the final lap there. Thank you, Connery and Sebastian, for joining us there. But this is the start of the final lap here, Matt, and well, business is about to pick up here for the next 8.5 minutes or so.
Yeah, Erstgaard gets by Pinto, but it was late, and I wasn't sure that they were going to get them done. I'm going to go back to the Sebastian thing, and just thinking about it a little bit, and this is where the iRacing devs would have more knowledge on it. I don't think the downshift itself is what did it, but it did perpetrate the issue. So when you do a money shift like that, you have to consider a few things. You're going to get rear wheel locking in a rear wheel drive. You actually want the wheels to lock money shift, because if that locks, it means the energy is no longer over revving backwards into the engine. It's going to cause the over rev to cause the pistons to fly through the top of the block. The problem is, if you think about tire dynamics, if you're at the crest of a hill and you're more likely to lock, the tire's not under load, it's at less grip. He goes into a compression, the shift gets done, it's under the revs, but between the rear wheel locking caused by the shift energy and the compression of being under braking, it then over revs. So I think the shift goes down and goes in, too much load on the tire, and it over revs. It's not that the shift didn't complete or the shift itself was too high, it was the compression and the release of the diff afterwards that does it. So in real life, that's kind of how it would work. I'd have to find out if that's possible in iRacing, but I still think it is an over rev after the car gets into the gear.
There we go. Complex engineering from Matt Trivet, but make sure you give him a call if you ever get any problems with your engine block.
Yeah, I won't fix you, but I'll tell you what you did wrong, and then I'll get my mechanic to fix it, because I'm useless, so...
But at the front of the field then, it's Josh Rogers from Tommy Erstgaard, Diogo Pinto in third place. We're on board with Erstgaard right now, the Norwegian. He wants to get a win here. He wants really to get a win in this one, whereas we're on board with the Vodafone replay. Vodafone on board here in this final lap of the race. Dane Warren is in 5th place behind Jeremy Bootley, with Mitchell de Jong, the man who came into this round in 3rd place in the championship, in 6th place, gaining 1 position over this race. Matt Backham has dropped down the order to 7th, and Daniel Lafuente in 8th. Jamie Fluke and Jeff Biassi round out your top 10. Biggest mover in your field is still Josh Thompson at 9 positions here, but Max Benneker has been on the charge as well. He's into 14, but they've just dropped back. Oh, look at those cars.
I love it every friggin' time.
I didn't know that Porsche also made aeroplanes.
Apparently. I would like one. Very much, please, Porsche. That looks phenomenal. Yeah, I just want to clarify again, just on that. It's the virtue of being in the air probably has aspects to it, too. And someone brought this up in chat and said, does the ship protection work in the air? He's probably off throttle, right? So he can probably get the downshift done. Everything's relaxed, everything's calm, and you hit the ground and all the energy goes through it at once. So that's kind of where I'm saying the shift is done, but it's the compression of the landing that then revs it, puts all that energy through it. So
there we go. Warren and Mitchell de Jong, 5th and 6th place. De Jong, he needs to gain positions here to really take advantage of Sebastian Job's bad luck in this round. It's not just been this round, it's been this season. I don't know what it is. This championship seems to have a poison chalice. If you win the championship, the following year you just cannot defend it, because we haven't so far seen a driver defend the title here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup by iRacing. And well, just look at this queue of cars. 12 cars in a line as they're heading on to the first part of the Nürburgring. Well, after the first part, a quarter of the way through, down the hill, and well, Kellenhard, you see it on the board there, it tells exactly what you are. This chicane, it's really, really quick and fast through that chicane, and then miss hit miss as well.
Miss hit miss is crucial to the lap. I've been sideways through there before. It's not fun at all. Please don't do it. I was very scared, and I wanted to cry like a girl and call my mom and tell her about it. But I didn't, because she yelled at me for it. So it's a technical corner. It's called miss hit miss for a reason. But Jeremy Bootley's taking this green hell thing quite seriously, because he's got the green screen behind him. I wonder what he's got up to his stream.
Well, I'm going to say, yeah, he does stream, does Jeremy, so He provides some great content on Twitch. One of the few of the drivers that do actually stream whilst they're racing. I know Jamie Fluke does that as well, and a couple others of the drivers, they like to show their perspective of their drives out there. I can see that David Williams has actually had a pit stop in this race. 49-second pit stop. He's obviously getting some repairs done to his car, and he's back out there. So he's running in 22nd. But last runner, but he's getting points there by being in 22nd.
Yeah, and that's the key. Right now, you've got to get points. Charlie Collins, obviously, back in 20th place. Get them on the board. He still has a championship to contend with. Yes, it's a bad weekend, but everyone's had one here or there. Even Josh, last time out, didn't have the best weekend we saw in this. And so, at this point, everyone has to be thinking the end game. And that 20th position is certainly something we talked about for a guy like Johan Hart that's just had an abysmal time out about it. And I mentioned it as well. When guys like Sebastian go out, when guys like Charlie fall down the order, when guys like Kevin Ellis Jr. goes down the order, if I'm someone who's normally mid-teens or in the pack and, I'm on that 20th, I'm looking at that as opportunity. Just that's position that were ahead of me. They're gone. I'm looking to take that and just run with it and be consistent as possible to collect those points.
Yeah, that top 20 being so crucial to give you a ticket, punches your ticket into next year's championship. Some drivers already thinking about next year. They don't want to have to go through qualification because it's so difficult to qualify for this championship, because there's so many drivers who didn't take part this year that want to get into this championship because they've seen how competitive it is and they've seen how good the driving is and the racing is. They want to be involved, and well, these 40 drivers who started this championship, they were the ones who have that space. The others want it, so nobody wants to go through that qualification process. But we're heading towards the end of the lap here.
I just want to say quickly, well, the camera work's been phenomenal today. But could you imagine standing on the side of the track at Porsche right now, where we just went through, and seeing this come through? Like some people say, sim racing lacks that spectacle, that look on camera, and it's hard to get that same personification. I'm telling you right now, if this was a real race and you were standing by it, you would never forget this for your entire life. This was just incredible to watch.
Yeah, the way that all these cars have been able to stay so close together throughout this race has been sensational. Tommy Erskaard's dropped back a little bit from Joshua Rogers on this final lap, up over the curbs there through the Beloff S. That's not always the smartest thing. It can unsettle the car because it is quite a high curb. Right now, I think that Josh Rogers has maybe just got the gap enough to hold on to that lead. And the Dottinger Heuer, it needs a good run through the carousel, and then Galgenkopf for the final time for this to really count. Erskaard, he'll want to win here. He's been there or thereabouts in this championship. He has won previously in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup, but he is a man who's desperate for a win. One of your rookies this season, Diogo Pinto, the Portuguese driver, they're following the slipstream. I think that Rogers has got this.
Yeah, he's gone.
He's just far enough ahead. The slipstream effect is not quite strong enough for Erskaard. Erskaard is catching up, but that straight is running out the reach of the Bilstein Bridge. Although saying that, look at the speed. Here comes Pinto. He's trying to get second place. Incredible. The door-to-door, mirror-to-mirror in towards Tiergarten. Will it be tears at Tiergarten? The answer is no, because Pinto squeezes ahead. But at the front then, out the final corner, it's going to be the Australian Joshua Rogers. This has been a big week in terms of the championship. He knows that as they come across the line. Who's going to be second? It is Pinto who just gets second. Brilliant stuff to the end. The best result for the Portuguese driver from him. And Tommy Erskaard, third place in the end. He'll be gutted about that. But that is a huge weekend here for Joshua Rogers. Rest of your field coming across the line here, Matt.
Yeah, that's incredible from Josh. Well done. Gets the gap at the end and runs with it. Thiago Pinto, it would have been amazing to see him get a rookie win. And very close, but what a drive overall. I can't wait to chat with him after this race. Hopefully we get the chance, because that's by far his best weekend, and he was sweating for it. He was working so hard, and yeah, great job from Josh. That's just going to make that championship pretty much, not officially, obviously, and even until we get to the end of the season, it's still provisional, but at this point, pretty much untouchable in the championship run, I think, Paul.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty insurmountable lead right now. Joshua Rogers then, from Australia, your race winner. 0.2 of a second ahead of Diogo Pinto, the Portuguese driver, in second place. Brilliant result for him. Tommy Erskard not able to hang on to it in the end, in third place ahead of the Australian Dame Warren. Jeremy Bootloop in fifth, ahead of the man who came into this week in third place in the championship, Mitchell de Jong, sixth place overall in this race. Matt Backham and Daniel Lafuente, 7th and 8th ahead of Jamie Flug and Jeff Giassi, the Brazilian, rounding out your top 10. Zach Campbell, the American, 11th. Martin Kronka in the end in 12th place for him. Graham Carroll, 13th. Again, not the best of weekends for Graham. Max Benneker, bit of a recovery drive after the sprint race in 14th ahead of Maxime Ramstein. Good points for Jack Sedgwick in 16th and Josh Thompson in 17th. With Salva Talons, Charlie Collins will be absolutely gutted about that result there in 19th. Pekka Toivonen and Brian Lockwood. And David Williams is actually still running out there. He is in 22nd place. The rest of the drivers did not finish. And look at that. Just 3 drivers in the chance of a championship. But it is a maximum of 170 points available. I think that this was the weekend that Josh Rogers got one hand on that trophy.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That is a massive margin of points right now, the biggest margin we've seen in this series. Usually it comes down to the final. I'm not sure Monza's going to matter for Josh Rogers. It's going to matter for a lot of other people, no doubt. Still a very important race, but he might already have it sealed by the time we get there. That yellow bar, I don't know what we're going to call it, like the limbo stick. It had 13 people on the other side of it at the start of this race. So brilliant from Josh Rogers as we head into our Bose post-race show here in a second. Joshua Rogers way ahead, obviously. Sebastian Job's not going to love the fact that engine let go on him. And like you said, at this point, it's a battle for second, I think, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. The Buzz post-race show then here on the Porsche Tacoma Esports Supercup by iRacing coverage. And Matt, you've got your race winner.
Yeah, race winner, and does so with a pole position, a second place, which was actually quite an interesting battle at the end, Josh. And then this time, you get 3 cars in one draft, and then you break the toe.
Yeah, well, we weren't expecting that, that's for sure, in the feature. I think we knew coming into this race that draft was so strong. Even if you have a massive pace advantage over the other guys, you can't break a mode no matter what you do. So it's all about kind of strategically putting yourself in the right position for the last few laps. And in the sprint, you saw that Sebi and Mitchell put themselves in a better position than I did for that one. Ultimately, I was just kind of trying to think, okay, how can I lose as little spots as possible on the last lap? But in the feature, obviously that was quite a risky move. I wasn't necessarily planning on doing that in the beginning, but we went for it, and there we were just trying to focus on maximizing the sectors I was really strong, which was basically sector 10 onwards, to try and break that toe, which we managed to do on the last lap. But yeah, I'm ecstatic. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the championship lead is pretty substantial. You have a chance to wrap it up, obviously, when we get to Le Mans, and you've got your teammate Mitchell sitting right behind you in that championship table. Is there? Yeah, we don't have a cartwheel yet, by the way. So we definitely, we got to get one before the end of the year. Like, I'm just going to put that out there. I'll leave that up to you. But is there a strategy maybe that if you wrap this up and then it's all about getting Mitch to second place as well?
I'm not sure, honestly. I think we're all the kind of guys that like to just race. No different to in the sprint situation. There was no teamwork between us. It was really just go out there and run your own race. I guess that's something that we'll see. It's not like we're going to manipulate points or anything like that. But obviously, if we can have as many cars up the front as possible, it's not only confidence boosting for us as drivers, but it's also great results for the team. So that's ultimately what we'll just be pushing for, and we'll see what happens.
Sweet. Well, great race, great weekend. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, that was pretty ridiculous, but Paul, I'm going to jump straight into it because Diogo Pinto, that was a race, my friend. That is the best weekend you've had. Second place, had a chance potentially to even get the win, and you were driving the wheels off it. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It was a great event for me. I prepared quite a lot for it. It was going to be a good track for me. And thankfully, I put a good lap in quali, which I managed to hold on and get the grid inversion for the main race. And from there on was just to hold my ground, try to stay in the draft and wait for the final laps to make the moves. And
you've had some really good results throughout the year in terms of the Daytona 24 Hour. You were in a competitive car. How have you rated your first season in PESC? Because I think a lot of people know that you're aggressive, but there's a lot to learn in this field.
Yeah, I've had a few good races, but sometimes I've gotten lucky, being other drivers or my own mistakes. I have a few points because of that, but I'm learning a lot since the season started, and finally this round I was able to put it all together.
How would you rate your overall performance this season if you were to be your own critic?
I feel like I couldn't bear in some rounds, but overall I think it was really positive, especially after this round. And I should be able to be quite safe in the points now, and hopefully next year I'll be able to fight at the front more often.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you had a chance in the lap? We're just looking at some of the onboards down toward Foxhole, but did you think you were setting yourself up potentially for a draft in the win?
Yeah, that was my goal, to stay in second on the last lap, but Tommy did a great move on me, so I knew it was going to be quite tough to get P1 because Josh is really fast on the infield section. But yeah, I was in a decent spot going on to the dotting area, and I was able to overtake Tommy. But the win, I knew it was going to be tough. I will need to be P2 and really close to Josh on the straight, but still I'm really happy with P2.
Yeah, well, it was exciting. I was rooting for you. It was awesome to see. Obviously, you like the Nordschleife, and like you say, that's huge for your points. So thanks very much. Congratulations.
Yep, thanks.
Always great, Paul, to talk to a driver who gets their first podium of the season. And we'll touch more on that because obviously 18th in the standings, that's going to be massive for that cutoff mark. But Tommy Østgaard, another driver who's had sort of up and down all year, I think. And this race was up and down because you had a nice little draft battle going on and getting to second place, maybe even a chance for it. But how do you rate that? That was pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, it was a great race. It's very hard to pull away here in the because of the draft. So it's all about staying together and trying to find the perfect gap to the car ahead. And I was leading the first, I think it was the first first two laps. Just trying to not make any mistakes and try to have my car up there. And then tried my best for the last corners, but that was pretty spicy. Diogo did a good job getting that P2 as well, but ultimately just very happy to get a podium. And the best thing is, looking at the results and seeing how strong we are as a team. Having 6 cars in the top 7 is just insane. So, it's a dream to be able to practice every day, with the best sim racers in the world in Kwanda. So just huge props to everyone in the team for all the work.
Yeah, and obviously you're not in that house with some of the guys, but you're still always in communication with them, I imagine. And I how much prep kind of went into this week as a community effort?
I think nothing more than the other races. We're prepared well for every round, I think. Nothing special for this one, but we are sitting together for a lot of time, a lot of evenings. So it's a big relief when everything comes together on a day like this.
Well, first feature podium of the season, second overall. That's going to give you a nice boost to points as well. I guess I'll ask the same question I asked to Diego. You're obviously not a rookie in the series, but how would you rate this season for you?
I think, comparing it to last season where I was pretty happy getting a P7. I think, this year I have been faster, but it's not really shown in the results yet. I was a little bit unlucky in the first half. Not having my car, at the right place at the right time. But, in difference this race, I felt, pretty much everything went my way. So I was definitely this time around at the right place at the right time. And I think, I need that going forward as well. But I think, my pace has been better. But it's not quite there, with the likes of Josh. So I got to keep working. But I'm quite happy with, the step I've taken from last year in practice. But I got to keep working and find the last gap. So, those guys up front are really fast. So, need to work hard.
Well, you were fast today as well. 3rd place and a couple of races left to wrap up the season. Congratulations. Great job.
Thanks, man.
Paul, there you go. I do love hearing from a few different people on the podium because this is such a different track, and it's great how it really can bring the best out of some people. It's the small mistakes, the subtle nuances. I mean, Diego Pinto looked phenomenal today, and Tommy Østgaard had a great race as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm made up for Diogo. He's had a bit of a a good season, but this one's really been a solid result from him. Connery, you were able to take that more of an overview of what was happening out there. Again, it was a race of survival for quite a lot of the drivers out there, with Number not finishing that race at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the sprint race more so than the main race, but you are absolutely right. It's always been a track of attrition every single time we've gone through it, not just in this series, but in other series on iRacing as well. It's a very, very tough track to negotiate. This is why it's called the Green Hell. You're not going to get around here in one piece if you don't have that experience, you don't have that amount of practice to
and
really
even then, you
become a
still might
Nürburgring
not.
specialist. Yeah, exactly. You might accidentally blow your engine like Seb, but yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation for him though. That was again, I said it on my Twitter during the race. I said you don't get a better example of a hero to zero moment, but hopefully Seb can bounce back from this. I hope he doesn't think about it for too long, and he can come back and maybe have a good couple of results at the end of the season. Of course, still mathematically within a shout of the championship, but let's face it, Josh has been on another level this season where it just seems untouchable.
And well, Matt, we're heading in 2 weeks' time to Le Mans. What a tremendous historic venue, and it produces some great racing. It's a different tactical style of racing. There you go, April the 10th. To make sure you get that in your diaries. But Matt, what can we expect there? Just slipstreaming. It's going to be a train of cars.
Oh, it's going to be so much drafting, so much passing and repassing, and I think it'll get a little cheeky. It's going to be interesting because people will be lifting near the front to try and get themselves the position. The guys at the back are going to be staying on it. I think as well we need to start focusing a lot on guys like Martin Kronke, Diego Pinto, Jeff Giassi, Jamie Fluke, Selva Talons, David Williams, those guys that are close right now to 20th. Our front end battle seems to be sorting itself, but that's going to be really important in the next two races for who's going to requalify for season 4.
There you go. April 10th. Make sure you check that out. The same place as always. Thank you very much to everybody on the broadcast. Will Vincent, Connery Maddock, Matt Trivett, and myself, Paul Smith. Of course, if you want to start your iRacing career, check out iRacing.com. Every day is a race day on iRacing. Coming up next on the iRacing Twitch channel is continuing coverage of the iRacing 12 Hours of Sebring powered by VCO. But today, at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, did Josh Rogers get one hand on that championship trophy? From everybody here, it's goodbye.